Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the RFOX Weekly Community Roundtable. Thank you all for tuning in. Let me go ahead and add some members of the RFOX community so we can start having an open dialogue. It's been a very huge week in terms of announcements and very bullish news for RFOX and VFOX and the RFOX Labs ecosystem. I'm very excited to get some community reactions, and let's get this dialogue going, baby. All right, so Chill Will and G-Dog, I have just sent y'all some requests. Looks like G-Dog is connecting right now. What's up, G-Dog?
Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are. It's good to be back for another week.
Well, I'm excited to have you. All righty. Well, should we just jump straight into it? Should the RFOX Vault Quarter?
What a cool name. What an
Hey guys.
cool name.
What's up, Will? How you doing?
Decided that I'd change my Twitter name to RFOX Blogger.
Is that I don't know how to describe it. What made you want to change it to that?
Look, I just love the RFOX ecosystem, and I wrote a great Medium article, so I just thought I'd go all in on RFOX.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what most people in the community have done in terms of their portfolio. So might as well, just become a full out maxi. I'm all for it. Do you have any other Medium articles planned now that there's more news regarding the RFOX ecosystem and everything?
That's an excellent question, Adrian. Look, I haven't got any planned, but I might have to start cranking them out now that I've, as a service to the community. I mean, Metaverse Explorer, he started with just one video, and now he's pumping them out on a regular basis. So maybe I've got to step it up.
That's fair. Also, it looks like Josh Settle's in here. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for one of the all-time great RFOX and VFOX bulls, Josh Settle. Welcome back, Josh.
Thanks, Adrian. I don't know if I needed that Bruce Buffer type announcement, but I appreciate it, guys. It's good to be here.
So you being a vault quarter or a landowner in the RFOX Vault in the Calanova Square, what are your takes on the RFOX quarter announcement?
Well, I think it's going to be huge, man. And I'm excited to see the land sale go, because to be honest, I think that using ETH instead of RFOX is a smart move. One, because it doesn't manipulate the RFOX price, because right now not being listed on one of the tier one exchanges kind of hurts RFOX during these land sales, because since there's so little liquidity, you lose a lot of value when you're trying to convert to RFOX. So if people can just use their ETH, they don't have to convert to anything or from anything. They can place the bids, and I think the bids are going to go a lot higher. So I think we're going to see that the Calanova quarter was the discounted quarter, because all the big players kind of just sat on the sidelines. So I think with ETH coming in, and then, after all the sales are over, using that ETH to buy back RFOX and then burn it, I think that's very smart.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just going to add to what Josh has said there as well. So the idea behind that obviously has been already mentioned, why they're using ETH. But so we're looking at the RFOX buyback at the end of the auction is looking at about 45% of whatever ETH is collected will be turned back into RFOX. So we're looking at a breakdown of about 15% will go to VFOX holders who stake. We'll go into a pool for that. There'll be another 15% that go into other staking and farming opportunities, as is currently the case at the moment. There's 5% that's going to quartermasters. There's a reserve fund there. And there's another 10% that is going to get burnt. So that's the breakdown of... and then there's the other 55% go to the team for their marketing and whatnot. So we're looking at about a 45% buyback of RFOX at the end of the land sale.
And I think the choice to go with Ethereum as opposed to RFOX for the bidding currency, if you will, what isn't just a good move based on like there's going to be more people who own Ethereum versus RFOX, and it's not just going to have a wider user base as well in terms of who can bid on it, but what's going to happen to the RFOX and probably VFOX price too, because at least as of right now they're pretty tethered to each other. It's actually going to have a much healthier price appreciation, because if anyone was here during the first land sale, which was in November. Was it in November? October? Fuck, I totally forgot. But in late Q3 into early Q4, that first Calanova land auction, the price of RFOX and VFOX appreciated like 30 or 40% in the days leading up to it. And then after it, because everyone was bidding in RFOX and VFOX, or RFOX, excuse me, RFOX and VFOX crashed like 30 to 40% after that. And I think just having the Ethereum now purchasing and buying back and burning RFOX, I think it's going to have much healthier price appreciation, because there's not going to be very much sell pressure anymore. It's going to be primarily buying pressure.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, Josh, it must be crazy to look at, that buy that you put on in the shop sale now, just closing in on 600K USD. And so it's probably about, if you were to bid in ETH for the next sale, Josh, and get it for the same price, which seems unlikely, you'd be bidding, 140, 150 ETH just to secure that shop.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, man. Like I said, if I didn't use RFOX in the first bid or the first auction, I don't think I would have gotten it. And I also don't think that I'll be able to afford a shop in this auction or in the other two auctions that are coming. So I think we're about to see a lot of money come in, because like I said, the first one, to be honest with you, it really wasn't worth and unless you were planning for it for, at least 2 or 3 months in advance, and you could buy, 10 grand of RFOX a day, it wouldn't be worth it for people because of the loss, because the liquidity was so low. So when you buy or sell, and if you're moving large amounts, you're going to lose for anybody in here that wasn't on our last little roundtable, I moved 150 grand, and granted, that's not, a crazy amount of money, not as much as other people have, but just to show like how low the liquidity is, how low it was 2 months ago. I sold VFOX, and then just converting from VFOX to RFOX, it dropped it down to 120. And then when I converted from RFOX to BNB, dropped it down USDT, dropped it down to 115, I believe. So that is why I think we didn't have a lot of people joining in, because the true is also, or the reverse is also true. So say if you wanted to buy a shop for $1 million, if you try to buy $1 million worth of RFOX, you are going to get wrecked and probably only get about 750,000 worth, because of how low the liquidity is. So I think switching to ETH is genius, because it gets rid of that issue, because there's a lot of people that are holding ETH. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Khalid.
no. Sorry, guys. Yeah, no, that actually makes the argument makes complete sense. I mean, I thought it was I kind of followed RFOX from the KMD days, Komodo days, and I thought it was a genius move to ETH, and with the Uniswap and everything else. But now when you look at it and you look at the gas fees, so there's a bit of a two-way thing. On one hand, the gas fees are ridiculous, but then on the other hand, you are on a platform where you can actually people can see you and buy you, on Uniswap, etc. to start off with. Obviously, that's how they make the money, and I've gone to KuCoin, Bittrex, etc., etc. In terms of the shops, It was in October, I think someone asked earlier. It was in October the previous the retail quarter which was sold, and yeah, you guys are right in terms of the people weren't buying huge amount of RFOX to buy it unless they already had bought it in months before, because it would have moved the prices quite high due to the lack of liquidity that's out there. In terms of moving to Ethereum, I think it's a good move. I'm just slightly concerned about the gas, but I think the people who can afford that kind of money, that I believe if it's anything to go by 100,000 odd, that then a few hundred in gas is nothing to them. So yeah, really really good move. I've got one question for you guys on RFOX, but on the gaming, on the COGS game. How does the COGS game release? I mean, it's going to open beta in 3 days' time. How does playing the game and owning COGS, etc., affect the RFOX price? Does anybody know? Thanks.
There's going to be other mechanics that are going to get released once the game opens. So I know there's certain things that will happen within the game that will be discussed, I guess, in a couple of days' time to address that exact question, because people have sort of brought those things up. But there will be mechanics in place to help with that.
I think in my mind, there's a realization from the team that there's going to be sell pressure. And so they've obviously tried to pair that back with buy pressure. So I think my understanding of it is basically they're bringing in users into the system to play the game, and that anytime you try and onboard users, there's always a cost to acquisition, whether that's to acquire them via normal contemporary businesses, whether that's to acquire them by a Facebook ad or a Google ad. There's always a cost per click or a cost per acquisition. In this case, the users are coming in to play the game, and they're receiving RFOX for completing daily challenges. Well, they're getting coins in the game, which they can convert to RFOX. And there'll naturally be some sell pressure, obviously, as people want to cash out their coins for RFOX and then sell that for their local currency. But it seems to me they've also cleverly, although I didn't understand this at first, paired that with this idea of the Mint Lab. And it seems to me that how they're trying to get value into RFOX from a buy side is by partnering with NFT projects that will then mint COGS or for the NFT project, and then there'll be some buy side pressure for the COGS, and COGS will go up in value, and then ultimately it seems like they'll switch from giving out RFOX to giving out COGS as prizes.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with the COGS. I think you'll find that there will be a balance between giving out coins, which can be transferred for RFOX and cashed out into fiat, and the in-game COGS. So I think you might find that those COGS will then be able to be sold, and people can make their money in that regards through selling of those COGS. Now, we've got to remember that those COGS are going to form sets as well, and those sets are going to be able to be staked as part of the limited edition sets. So the COGS will come out in seasons, and those tubes, once those sets are created and they're tubed up, those tubes will be able to be either used for tournaments. So you stake those, receive a tournament ticket, and you can on-sell those to people to enter tournaments, or you can keep them for yourself. And then those tubes again will have use within the metaverse once that's up and running. So there are many different aspects to this to help with that, to help ease that sell pressure. So you've got to look at it as rather than just a game itself, you have to look at all the other influences on the outside on how COGS and how tube sets of COGS are going to influence how it gets used within the whole ecosystem. So you have to look at it from an ecosystem point of view, not just an individual game.
I kind of want to take a left turn here. So there was not just an announcement for the Arcimoto Vault within the RFOX Vault, but there was also a major marquee client announcement in the Calanova Square, being CoinGecko. What is everyone's opinions on the CoinGecko partnership? And I just want to add on, this is a community roundtable. So if anyone does want to talk and give their opinion on what's going on in the RFOX ecosystem, go ahead and just request, and we'll definitely let you get in here.
In terms of the CoinGecko, fantastic move. It depends on now what comes out of it. So if in terms of metaverse, this is a place that I can go, put my Oculus on, go walk around, walk into the CoinGecko shop and buy tokens. Great. And that's probably the vision that I can see. But from the point of view of publicity, it'd be interesting to see if we get publicity from CoinGecko itself. Banner of RFOX, so look, we're in a metaverse, etc. I think that's probably, or maybe down the route. I'm not sure when Vault is fully released or so. So that I think that's that's something to look forward to. But yeah, I think it was a great move. It gave us a lot of publicity.
Do you guys see the CoinGecko Vault being something like kind of a New York Stock Exchange kind of look, where they have all the tickers running across with prices and everything?
Yeah,
it's definitely what I envision.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Whether or not that happens, or how far away something like that would happen, who knows? But there's definitely the possibility of something like that, where people can come into our vault, go into the CoinGecko shop, and have a look at, do research on coins. They could make it a virtual walk around. Instead of just sitting at your computer and typing stuff in, you could actually make it interactive and things like that. So I think the extent of what could possibly be done is limitless.
I mean, what's pretty amazing about the Vault, and hearing Benny and the RFOX Lab team talk about this endeavor, it seems like they're making a foundation, and they're kind of giving people the opportunity to be able to purchase part of it and kind of make it their own. And the visions of what people are talking about with their Vault land are pretty limitless, and it's pretty reminiscent and it reminds me of when Steve Jobs had released the Apple Store, or the App Store, excuse me, and they kind of had an idea of what people could put out, but people's creative minds and people's creative visions, they really go a lot further than I think what some of the major companies, when they put these platforms out, can even envision. And I'm very excited to see what people are going to be able to do in the metaverse space, and more specifically, like tethering it in with virtual reality and augmented reality. It should be pretty interesting.
I think it's Ben is a visionary. He sees things way before other people, and you read some of his articles, speak to him. He's got a fantastic mind. In terms of the metaverse and what we're able to do, that's actually, imagine you're a shop owner. You've bought a shop. How can you customize that? That whole landscape, I think, is yet to be answered. There are going to be some maybe limitations initially, because I think you will be able to design themes, etc., by what the Vault developers kind of built as a template. So you can say, this is how I want to start my shop, etc. But I think it'll be down to the developers now to build that a kind of drag and drop to say, like, this is what you want to see. But it's not going to be that easy. Developing something 3D takes a heck of a lot of time to develop. So it'd be interesting to see when we get to actually see Vault in full play, and what the people who are residents of it are able to do to customize.
Yeah, so I think that's coming. Obviously, me being a shop owner, I've been talking to Wade, the COO, and he's been awesome. I'm sure everybody in here that's in the Discord has seen it too. And if you haven't seen it, then a message I got from him, I was doing a request on a feature for smart contracts between myself and anybody who wants to list an item in my shop. And Wade said there's a bunch of potential user stories or feature requests that gets prioritized for the build. Our product owner's job is to prioritize them into what we will be rolling out in the MVP and what is required for later builds. We've taken note of your user story request, and it is in the list for review and prioritization. Once we get the shop owner's channel this week, and we'll start to gather more user stories like this and evaluate what gets into the build and at what stage. So they are, taking into account everybody that buys a shop and everybody's separate needs. So if you are thinking about buying a shop, they will take care of you. Because to be honest with you, I thought I was going to have to, hire some developers to help me get to where I need to be. But, seems like the team's taking care of everything, which is pretty awesome.
No, that's great to hear. But you would expect that, because you at the end of the day, people like yourself, shop owners, are the ones who are going to drive people to come to their shops, and be able to do something. If you don't mind me asking, Josh, what is it that your shop is going to do? I've not looked at your profile. Apologies.
No, it's okay. So what I'm going to do is my shop's going to be community based. One, I think it's going to get, not the most because of the marquee shops, but it's going to get a lot of traffic because it's right next to Void Cyber, and those are all the big brands,
Nice.
like Nike, Louis Vuitton, Burberry, all those. But mine will be a community shop, and anybody that couldn't afford a shop that still has products to sell or has NFTs that they made personally, or they just bought some cogs that they want to sell, or they bought a Bored Ape that they want to sell, anything. So anything that I have the ability to list in my shop, and if somebody wants to list it in there, that's fine with me. I would just get, it would be like 10% as a, curator fee or as an exhibit fee. And then that's it.
Oh, excellent. That's actually quite cool. I did actually have an idea. I did actually bid for a shop at that time, and I got outbid. But yeah, that's I might have a look at that. Be interesting. Thanks.
I just want to circle back to the developer support that Josh received from the RFOX Labs team, and it's pretty amazing that they're listening to the actual shop owners, and not just and not just saying like, oh yeah, that's a pretty cool idea, we'll think about it, but they're actively making an effort to really build in these ideas and these different smart contract codes and everything natively into their Vault build. Because like, if you look at, and I don't want to, okay, I'm definitely going to name drop here, but I don't mean any ill will. But if you look at something like Decentraland, the devs, they kind of just drop that platform.
What's Decentraland? I've never heard of that project
before.
Hey,
that's very fair. Very fair. But they drop basically this platform in this metaverse space, and people can purchase land, but it's kind of up to the landowners to develop and actually code everything for their plot of land. So if you look at something like Decentral Games, all of the mechanics within those casinos and everything, those are third-party code, and it's complete third-party support versus something like an RFOX Vault. And I think their approach is going to have more success in the metaverse space, because they are listening to their active owners and they're building in and coding and baking in native first-party support for smart contract solutions.
I've got sort of to add to that, it circles right back to the white label NFT platform. It's the whole reason why they're building it, is to be the Shopify of NFTs. The whole platform is based on the premise that is the building blocks of the vault. They want to have everything available in there where people don't need their hands held. They can just come in with zero experience and just build out their shop, put the colors in, whatever they want, be able to mint and list their assets on whichever chain that they wish to put it on. That's the whole premise of that, to make it easy for onboarding people. And it takes, in some senses, the guesswork out of that, making people fend for themselves.
I was talking to someone in the community a few hours ago in DMs, and we were talking about how all of RFOX Labs' different ventures, it seems like they're building them in tandem with each other to really make sure they don't just coexist, but actually enhance the user experience in all the different ventures. And
that is exactly what they are. They're literally building to click in.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because that's that same approach that made Apple so successful, where they basically built this walled garden that everything they build and everything that's first party dev supported is like really magical and superfluous with a user experience. And that's really when I hear Benny talk about his vision for it, him being a visionary, his vision for all of these ventures, and seeing what the developers are not just releasing but talking about with their user base, as Josh being the example. It seems like they're really building that walled garden to really make it magical and make it pretty frictionless and an easy user experience for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, what has impressed me the most has really been how the team works. So, I mean, I've had been lucky enough to have the occasional call with Wade and other members of the RFOX team. And I think what I really like about it is a lot of projects, you feel like it's a little side project, or it's a hobby, or it's something that they started, but they didn't think it would be big. And I really like the fact that actually, instead of the team saying, we're going to make a DAO and we're going to be decentralized, they've actually said, no, we're going to make a company. We're going to run the company. We're going to control how the company works. We're going to listen to feedback from community, but ultimately the buck stops with us. I'm sure Arclegger could say the same thing. He was involved in the first edition and I think second edition COGS. So shout out to you, Arclegger. But, like that really impressed me that they've actually taken this mindset. This is a real thing. They want it to be a real company. They want the company to be successful. They don't just want a token to be successful, but they want the company to be successful as well. And they're using, I know, every one of us here probably has a day job in which we, and we kind of have crypto on the side. But they're using things that we would do in our normal day job. They've got Jira boards, they've got Atlassian products, they've got, they're using agile methodology to do sprints, the development sprints. They've got, community managers. They're using actual advertising firms. Like they're just acting as if they're a normal corporation that is that we interact with in our everyday lives, and then they're integrating crypto, which I like. They haven't come from this idea of being a crypto company and kind of doing all the buzzwords of crypto, but they've just started like, hey, we just want to build a great company. We want it to be Fortune 500 in the future, and we're going to use crypto to get there. That's what I love most, I think, about the way the company approaches everything.
And it's one of those age-old like fine lines where there's a difference between cryptocurrency and decentralization and blockchain solutions. And I think the RFOX Labs vision for how they're going to be making these ventures happen, they've never really said it was going to be decentralized, but they put more emphasis on blockchain and cryptocurrency solutions to help make this vision come to fruition much quicker and in a much better way. And I think that business model and that approach to how they're making these ventures happen using these solutions is quite possibly going to become the industry standard in the next 20 to 30 years across like everything. I mean, everything's going to become, I think, tokenized in some way, and they're definitely going to use blockchain solutions because it's just a better way to verify data. It is an objectively better way than having like a centralized entity that keeps their verification standards private versus having the accountability of a permissionless, public, decentralized ledger, basically verifying all information that comes through it. So this week we saw two major RFOX Vault reveals, a release date for the COGS mobile game. Who here is excited for the November 30th open beta for the COGS mobile game?
Yeah, looking forward to it. I actually, to be honest, I haven't played COGS. I remember seeing it when it was on KMD, when it was in Komodo. And you know, it was doing the smart contracts of all. They then tried to do smart contracts. They couldn't really do it because KMD didn't have it. But yeah, I've looked at it and it's interesting. I'm actually really interested to know what the user, how many actually players we get on the game. Every metaverse out there, you know, competitors, etc. They have a game behind them or so. And this game on here for RFOX is different to others. So it's not a shoot up game or a land owning game or so. It's a game where you kind of, I haven't played it, so I really can't actually comment. But it's from 90s. I remember from the back in the 90s, that kids used to have this Pogs when I was in school, and you know they used to play, and it's a very similar concept to that. So yeah, I think the open beta, I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to try it out, and I want to see how many other people do, and I want to see. I like the website, I like the images and everything else, and you know, everything they've done so far has actually been really really good. So yeah, let's see what comes out and how many users we get.
I think the game lends itself to a whole bunch of different sort of markets, right? You've got there's the play to earn aspect, obviously, which could potentially bring in a lot of people from the targeted area of Southeast Asia and just in other people around the world in general. But you've also got your collectors. So those people that are already avid COG collectors, you can pretty much guarantee they're going to be playing that because they want to get those limited edition sets from in-game. And the only way to get them is going to be to earn them or to buy them, you know, on a secondary market. So just something to think about as well. But the game itself is quite addictive. So it should be very interesting.
Have you guys seen those Twitter posts? I think there was one from one of the COGS devs and someone from the community who was taking part in the closed beta, and the payouts for those RFOX rewards have been pretty sizable to like 25,000 RFOX, which, you know, right now it's not enough in most Western countries to be able to live off of in like a non-poverty stricken way. But that being said, as there's RFOX price appreciation, and I think as more people start to play COG Slam and some of the other, I'm sure, COGS enabled games that RFOX Labs has been working on, it's pretty amazing to think about the fact that people are going, if they're like that great, like random ordinary people can be making basically a salary playing COG Slam and other NFT based games.
Yeah, I think from a Western point of view, you know, I live in a Western country. I don't live in Southeast Asia. But I think we underestimate how many people don't earn, you know, Western wages, a living wage, I guess. And, you know, for some, you know, earning an extra $100, $200 US a month makes a huge difference to them. I mean, they, in Western countries, we're kind of, it's a dirty word, but we're kind of vaccinated now, or the people that want to be vaccinated. They're still trying to pump out that in Southeast Asia. And, there's huge amounts of opportunity for that, and, like I know Indonesia, that's going to be something like the 7th largest economy by 2030. We've got all the people in, India, we've got Malaysia, we've got Vietnam. There's so many people that are spending hours in traffic traveling every day, and they just need something to do on their phone. They're stuck in traffic for 3 hours a day, and they're going to a job where they're earning, $100 a day, and so I think we're going to see this huge influx of people from those types of places. I think, people in, well-off Western countries, the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, we can't really understand why people would go so nuts for a game that would only pay us out a couple of cents. But from what Ben has been saying, there are people that spend a couple of hours a day on RFOX Run just to win, 20 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents. Imagine if they could win $5 or $10 or $50 a day. So I think we don't understand it, really. So that's what's exciting.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, I live in a Western country. I'm in Europe, and Western Europe, and I didn't, it's kind of completely skipped my mind. The fact that actually RFOX or RFOX Labs has been really aimed at Southeast Asia so far. So it's and you've got, and Ben actually did mention in one of his I think Fireside or one of the Ask Me Anything sessions that this is aimed for South Asians, and this is aimed for the people who are traveling, and they're just looking to earn a couple of bucks. They're not looking to make thousands under thousands of trading or whatever. They just want a couple of bucks, and it makes a huge difference to them. And it's like, hey, I'm traveling, and I think you guys nailed it on there. And yeah, I see that now. I'd love to actually see the takeoff. Like I've said it before, I'm really keen on, and I'm going to follow the metrics to see what the uptake of the game is. Actually, it's fascinating. I'll be also interested to see what RedFox do in terms of future. So obviously, this is an open beta. Beta was successful to release it globally and people will play, but I'd be interested if RFOX actually purchase more games. You've as Red Fox Labs, they've always purchased some companies before, media companies, etc. So I can actually see them purchasing some games and actually incorporating them into the whole ecosystem with RFOX. And I think that's something that's probably down they might do over the years or so. But I can see it happening. I can see it happening with other generally crypto, because crypto companies have made a lot of money. They can come and they can go and buy game houses. So yeah, that's something really to look forward to.
I think for me personally, the thing I'm most excited about with the COG Slam application is how they're going to work in creating a frictionless purchasing experience for NFTs and COGs and also RFOX, and how easy it is to be able to onboard people into that game with COGs, because at least in the traditional crypto space, it's been very difficult to onboard new users and to get people, i.e. the mass market, into blockchain and cryptocurrency solutions, because everyone I've talked to who isn't traditionally in crypto, just having them set up a MetaMask wallet freaks them out, and they get overwhelmed. So I'm going to be very excited to see how they're going to make a frictionless onboarding platform for COGS and RFOX.
Yeah, that's
on that already.
Yeah, sorry,
I was just going to say on that already, we've got the RFOX ID system rolling in. So when you sign up to the ID, you actually get given a Wax wallet, which is your in-game Wax wallet, and you also get given an Ethereum address as well. So they're already taking that step away. How that works further, I'm yet to see, but you could sort of imagine that, there may be, you may be able to see your assets within your RFOX ID. So if you end up with any NFTs, you'll be able to see that within your Ethereum or your Wax addresses. So they've already, just by signing up with, whether you sign up with Facebook, with an email address, with a Google account, they're already starting to, sort that problem out slowly. So by giving you those addresses already.
The other cool thing too is when you make your RFOX ID, they actually ask you for a username, and at least this is what I see coming. People are actually going to be able to send RFOX or COGS or VFOX or anything that's tethered into the RFOX ecosystem. I think they're going to be able to send it to people just based on their username and not even relying on the Ethereum address or the Wax address or possibly the Binance Smart Chain and Solana addresses if they end up making it cross-chain support to those blockchains and other ones. But I think in that way it's going to become super frictionless, because that's effectively the same sending mechanics that you have something in a Venmo or a PayPal, and those are multi-billion-dollar times over corporations and industries that are able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, Adrian, I think it's gonna be the same thing as like the Ethereum naming service, but it'll be tied to RFOX. So if I can get like a .rfox address, you bet your ass I'm gonna get one.
And I think they're also going to make those usernames an NFT. So those are actually probably going to be transferred as well, and people will be able to sell their username to someone else. At least that's what I see coming.
Yeah, I definitely think COG Slam is going to be a lot bigger than sort of everyone expecting to be. 99% of the world's population earn under 30,000 USD a year, and then you really just got to look at how many of those people in that 99% are connected to the internet, and then how many of them have smartphones. And I think pretty quickly all of those people will be playing this game. In my opinion, it's going to be pretty inevitable.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is a pretty watershed moment in gaming, because it's the first time we're going to see a play to earn game, like a true play to earn game, released to the mass market in a concentrated way and in a pretty serious way, at least that I know of. I mean, I haven't seen any other play to earn games that are releasing on the Google Play Store and the App Store.
I personally think it's going to be a bit of a watershed moment with world economies. You've got so many people in these poor countries that can't even earn $1 a day that are now going to have the option to slam COGS. I mean, you don't need to be Albert Einstein to think, what would you rather be doing? Welding barefoot, looking at the flashlight, getting paid nothing, or slamming COGS and earning a lot more money than you could doing severe manual labor, So I think it's very understated how big this game has the potential to be.
So guys, where does the reward system come from in terms of paying out RFOX to winners of tournaments or of games, etc., paying them for playing it? Where does the RFOX come from, and how is that managed in terms of the supply of it?
There's a fund, a gaming fund that was set up at the start, and there's a lot of, I don't know the exact figure of what's still in there, but I know they haven't used much of that gaming fund at this point in time. So that's one aspect of where those funds will come from. And then there'll be other things, like there's going to be the vault, there's going to be marketing and things like that. So if there might be things that involve the game because it's all interconnected. So there might be funds that get moved across from there as well. like I said earlier, we'll get more of an idea of the whole mechanics. I think in the next couple of days, because it will need to be discussed in finer detail about exactly where things are coming from.
I definitely think some of the mechanics are going to be relying on these people ending up with RFOX in their RFOX ID and then taking that RFOX into other ventures. Because the cash out might not be worth, like the transaction fee to cash that money out might not be worth what you're actually getting out. So I think there's going to be a lot of people just taking that money directly into the vault or into RFOX Media or some other venture and spending it directly within the ecosystem. Because I'm just thinking that transaction amount to withdraw that money into fiat might just be too large.
Also,
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting comment,
Derek.
because Ben said probably 12 months ago on an interview with another community member, Luke or Blunt Man, when they were talking about the cashback and reward system. And they were saying, well, really, a lot of people, when they play something or they get rewards tokens or they get cashback, a lot of people don't actually do anything with the cashback. So I think what we'll find is that there'll be a large majority, there'll be some that play the game to earn fiat. And so they play the game and they cash it out into fiat. There'll be some people that play the game, for a month or two, they'll earn some coins and they'll earn some RFOX and they'll forget about it for 12 months. And, that'll kind of sit there. There'll be other people that, as you say, Derek, that use it in the ecosystem. I think that's kind of the most exciting part about it, is that there's all these opportunities. And I think we forget about all the technical stuff that goes on in the background. I mean, Adrian, you make a brilliant point. When I first went and bought some first edition cogs, I wasn't there for the sale, so I had to go on the secondary market, and I had to go to the Wax site. I had to sign up for a wallet, and that was pretty easy because you could just use a Gmail or a Facebook or whatnot. But I had to sign up for an account. I had to work out what my account details were. I couldn't use a credit card in my location. I know in the US on the Wax site you can, but you've got to get some wax. You've got to go to Atomic Hub. It's a different website to one that I was used to. I had to go and find some packets on the secondary market. I had to sort by, lowest to highest. I had to work out what the differences between the packs were. Did I want a starter pack or did I want a booster pack? And then I had to pay for it and get these cogs. And then I had it on a separate wallet. And then I had to track it for, tax and whatnot. Now there's the idea that someone can just download the game and just click buy in the same way that we would, in kind of like whatever it is, Bejeweled or Candy Crush or something, and spend in-game tokens. It's just crazy to me that it's that easy to just earn NFTs that you actually own.
Well, on that, I want to add one more point to the income. It's already been mentioned, I think, both by Fads and by Benny, that RFOX Games is already making a profit. And so the other revenue stream that's already happening, and it's been happening since day one, is the sales of cogs. So on the secondary market, there's, I think, 2% goes back to the, it might even be either 6% or 2%, I can't remember the exact figure, goes back to RFOX Games already. So there's already a revenue stream coming in. So the more sales they get on the secondary market as well, and packs with in-game, packs on Atomic Hub, there's already that revenue stream coming in as well that can be reused, for that play to earn function as well.
Yeah, that could potentially be massive, that secondary market revenue, if that's an inbuilt function. I wasn't aware of that.
Hey guys, it's Red Foxer here.
Hey.
I'd like to see disincentivizing cashing out into fiat. If we can get some alliances with some other companies, so if you basically go straight from RFOX to, say, to Food Panda, you get discounts, and just really disincentivize cashing out into fiat.
I think the cashback app comes into that, and it'll come back into play. And the streaming, the whole e-commerce side of things, I think will have an impact on that when it goes live, whenever that is. But you're absolutely right. I think bringing on partnerships with other real world companies and things like that, where you can, link your wallet up to like a Food Panda or a McDonald's or a KFC or whatever. I think that will have that's something that hopefully we can look forward to in the future. But that would certainly make a lot of sense to incentivize it, to keep it within the system.
I definitely think that a lot of people are going to be taking those rewards, RFOX rewards, directly to RFOX Finance. Like once people start catching on that you can be earning 14% on whatever you've got, whether it be a small amount, there's really no other legacy financial institution that will give you that sort of return. So once people start clicking on, and it won't take long when they're all playing Cog Slam for them to talk to each other. Well, what do you do with it? Well, I take it and I stake it. And I think that's, and especially for young kids that are going to be playing the Cog Slam, you're going to be branding those young people straight away. And then hopefully, later down the track, we're going to be doing insurance, loans, and all sorts of things that people can borrow money from RFOX Finance and then start a business in the metaverse, the regional vaults or stuff like that. So I really think it's going to.
So actually, it's quite an interesting point. I think it will all come down to usability. So how easy it is to use. If we go back to the RFOX, creating an RFOX identity, wasn't that. I mean, I work in IT, so it's just really easy for me to create RFOX ID. I did create it. I haven't played the game, but I've created ID, got a wallet, etc., etc. So I can work all that out. But I think for the end user, I didn't really like there was a web interface, but it'd be interested to see how it goes in mobile. But then it would be interesting to see how they've got the whole usability, the UI side of it within the game, and within to do stuff like with finance. The missing pieces, you guys, as one of you guys actually mentioned before, it is about getting new people and getting them how it's easy to use. I think that the idea of identity and doing the wallets in the back end is a fantastic idea. You hide all that, you cloak that stuff, the technical stuff in the background. It will come down to, I think, usability. If you've got something that's really easy to use and say, here you go, you can put your money on this. There may be more for the techies among us. There may be more stuff that or other platforms we can earn bigger interest, etc. But nothing which has got an app to say, right, okay, here's an ecosystem over here, and it's really easy to stake or to earn interest, etc. So yeah, it comes down to usability.
Yeah, and I think that's the criticism of Cog Slam, right? Some of the people in the crypto space that have seen it have said, this game is so basic, I don't really understand it, it doesn't look fun, I'm only going to be earning a small amount of money, why would I waste my time? And it's about opening it up to a different market that's not perhaps the tech crowd that's already in on crypto.
Definitely. And I think that use case and the audience that they're really creating this for, this is that first big step into the mass market in the same way in the early 1980s or the late 1970s, a majority of personal computing was made up by hobbyists. It was people in the Silicon Valley computer clubs at Stanford and stuff like that. But you started seeing big moves in the early 80s with the Apple II and the Commodore 64 and the IBM compatible machines, where they were hated universally by hobbyist groups because it's like it's locked down, it's centralized, they use proprietary parts. But for the mass market, they were smash hits, and they really set the standard for what basically the entirety of personal computing and mobile computing has been since then. And I think in the same way this game is being bashed by hobbyists, I think we're going to look back in terms of an industry defining moment and what's really set the stage for play to earn games and play to earn mechanics within mobile applications. it's really a watershed moment, and it's really important. So I think anyone who truly understands this ecosystem, it really is something that bolsters us and makes us even more bullish, versus I think if it's just a hobbyist side and people who are looking to trade crypto and are crypto fundamentalists, if you will, they really don't like centralized or more centralized companies. There's a lot of backlash towards Ripple and XRP, and other coins that tend to take a more centralized approach. But that's just naturally where it's going to go.
Yeah, I definitely think what people miss is that other 99% of the world's population. 1% of the world's population is what the traditional markets are, but this game appears to be really marketed at the other 99% and onboarding that 99% into the RFOX ecosystem and incentivizing them to do so. And not just that, once they get in the ecosystem, you're going to have entrepreneurs and people wanting to maximize their returns, and they're going to have the leg up, as this thing moves forward, is sort of the way I view the structure of the game.
How are we looking in regards to iOS rollout on the 30th?
I've heard nothing at this stage about it. Hopefully it'll all go to plan. But I think we just need to wait and see how that one plays out. I think if iOS isn't ready, I think we're going to go out anyway. But I have absolutely no idea at this point.
I do know Apple also has very strict guidelines in terms of what they expect their applications to be able to do. And this being it has play to earn mechanics baked right in. And I don't know, there really hasn't been any precedent on that type of mechanic being in mobile applications. And I know Apple is very conservative because, they really like having everything be locked down with their operating systems. So I think they're still probably battling that that battle with Apple, because I'm sure it raises a lot of red flags when they're like, yeah, you can earn NFTs and you can transfer them, and like it's sort of decentralized and it's sort of like a third party payment platform, and Apple really hates third party payment platforms. If you look at something like the Epic lawsuit that happened a few months ago, but Epic did win on it, so maybe Apple is loosening up their more conservative and strict restrictions when it comes to third party and play to earn mechanics. So when Binance listing?
That's the question we all want. We all want answered.
Did you guys see? Did you guys see that Benny tweet when he was tweeting at the centralized exchanges?
Yes, yeah, I did. So from the tweet that was just last week, that doesn't look like any coming close. But then there was it the interview with was it Paul Barron, I think, and or someone anyway. He was talking about in terms of liquidity, as in if you launch a coin or so, these big exchanges want a lot of your coins. And then it's pretty much one exchange holding loads. So a tier one, Binance or FTX, if it gets listed, or Coinbase, if they listed any of those three, the price will rocket. But I don't think that's going to come anytime soon. I think he did touch on it a few weeks ago. And he said you need 25, in an interview, he said you need 25 million value daily before you go to T1. You need it for about a week or so, or something like that. And it's a case of, Red Fox is getting that. So it could happen. It could really happen. And if it, yeah, of course it does, it's going to rocket.
Yeah, I'd happy to be on the more conservative end of this. I think I don't think it's days away. I think it's probably weeks or a month or two away. I think generally the tier one exchanges follow hype. They're wanting things that the retail investors are demanding. So I think, we'll get some good announcements first. I think we might get some traditional non-crypto businesses that start going into the vault. And I think we'll get, COG Slam, play to earn, rocketing. And once there's a bit more talk about it, there's a few more articles in Cointelegraph, for example, and there's a bit of hype that's starting to build around it, then you start to see people getting interested. Then, the exchanges follow the money. So I don't think next week we're going to get an exchange announcement. I mean, I don't know anything other than anyone else. But I think it's probably a month or two away. I think we need to get some serious sort of hype before we get an exchange listing.
Yeah, I mean, from going by Ben's tweet when he was tweeting to his Binance, FTX, etc., I don't think that's going to be a week away either. In terms of whether it comes down months, I think that really comes down to what also the market is like. I mean, if we look at the general market, and if you're saying that the bull run is going to continue until January or so, then yeah, maybe we've got a chance. And then if it's the COGS game that's going to get released, and it's the land sale, and of course any of the big names who turn up in the game quarter or in the retail, etc. That would make us quite give us more of a name. But I'm not sure. In terms of the COGS game, that's just an open beta, so if that's widely well received, then yes, of course we could pump. But yeah, I'm lucky. I'm conservative. I'm not even sure that's going to be a couple of months away. I think maybe in the next year or so, we might see something on for T1 exchange.
Hello, Arclegger. It's nice having you here.
Whoa. Why? How did I get up here? I actually switched from my PC to my phone so I could emote.
Oh.
How are you guys doing?
Well, we're good. How are you?
Good. It's been cool to hear everybody talk about COGS. I'm like super, super excited about COGS. Benny and I started that, oh God, it was like 2018. It felt like 2019. I remember we were like, we need to make something simple. And he said, look at NFTs. And he sent me the CoinGecko NFT list, because that was like the best list to look at the time to see who was in the lead. And I remember just seeing everybody with NFTs. They were all collections. This was like early 2019. And I told Benny, I said, people need something to do with these NFTs. It's kind of amazing that people buy these NFTs and they just sit in their wallet and just like look at them. Like, shouldn't they use them? And so that's kind of what started it. And so then COGS was created from that idea. Anyways, hi everybody.
Just out of curiosity, what's your vision 10 to 15 years down the road, and how NFTs are going to impact the marketplace? Do you see more widespread adoption?
I'm pretty hyper bullish on NFTs. As you can see, my avatar is a Bored Ape plus a Damien Hirst. I think that NFTs are going to take over every industry. I was at the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, if you guys don't know what that is, where you get like a license and stuff. Talking to a clerk, and she said that she lost her title to her car. And the clerk said, well, it's an important piece of paper. You shouldn't leave it in your glove box or your glove compartment. And she's like, well, that's just where everybody keeps it. They keep it in their car because that's where the title is. So I'm sitting there going, man, this poor lady lost the title to her car. Somebody just stole her piece of paper and now has like the most important thing to her car. This would be so much easier if it was an NFT, and the title was an NFT, and people could just buy and sell and trade cars without even leaving their house, and they could just sell and trade the NFTs, or they could show the DMV that they have the NFT, and it would be a non-issue. And so that's just like a real world example. But I think this is going to take over tickets. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a stadium and you get to there's always that moment before you scan your ticket. If you bought your tickets online and you're like, I really hope this is real. And like you wait until they scan it and then they go, okay, you're good. And you walk in the stadium. Like everybody has that anxiety, and NFT, I think every ticket in the future is going to be an NFT. So it's just like very clear that what you're buying is a ticket to the game, and you know that it's the ticket. So that's just a couple of examples, but I think in 15 years, everybody will be using and interacting with NFTs, because NFT is associated with games and art right now, but that's wrong. NFT is just a non-fungible token, and anything can be an NFT. So I think slowly over time, people are going to realize that.
What applications do you see NFT wise in terms of the vault? Do you have any? Do you help out with the RFOX Vault in any concentrated manner?
So I'm definitely just advising these guys. I'll get hit up from Wade or Glenn or Benny every now and then, and he'll show me, or they'll show me something unique and kind of cool, and they'll get my opinion on it. But it's only from the gaming perspective, right? So Benny always talks about bakers in the baker's room, and so he won't ask me a question unless it's gaming related, and he's very, very true to that word. So when he talks to me, it's because he needs something on the gaming side figured out. So that's the only time that I'll dabble in the vault. Other than that, those guys just do their own thing, and I just trust them completely because I've worked with them on the gaming division, and I just know how they are. So when you know how they work and you know their day in and day out, it's really easy to just trust them. I remember when Benny and I would talk, it was Benny, Glenn, and Wade, and there was only like 3 other people. It was me and like 2 other people, and Benny talked to us the same way that he talked to his massive team that he has now. When we're in a meeting with 50 people or whatever, he talks the same way. So he's been laser focused since I've met him, and that was back in 2018, I think.
Do you see RFOX Labs as a company? Do you see them expanding their focus outside of Southeast Asia, or do you think it's going to be one of those hyper specific industries that really exceeds and succeeds pretty well in the Southeast Asian market, but hasn't really had a lot of market penetration in the Western markets?
I think they're going to focus on Southeast Asia, and any kind of penetration that they get in the Western markets is just going to be through sheer hype and hearsay. I think, if anything, if the vault is at all successful, even a little bit, they're going to copy that and put it into different regions. And then I could definitely see them putting it all over the place, globally. But, I really do think that they're very focused on Southeast Asia because that's the reason why they went there in the first place. All the people that have cell phones but don't have access to the internet or at their house, or they're just, it's just a huge market for what's happening right now. So, I mean, anything is possible, right?
Just quickly on that, I think I echo that, Arclegger, that, the focus is definitely Southeast Asia, but if there are pockets that pop up, for example, Australia, there is already a good little community happening through Australia. So it'd be silly not to put effort and time into those areas that are already showing popularity. So I think they'll do what they need to do as the data suggests.
Yeah, for sure. I think that I felt some of that working with Benny and the guys from the Western side, because I told him, I have all these connections on the Western market, and you guys can penetrate the Western market if we do this, this, and this, and this. And Benny was like, hold on, slow down. That's great. That's great that you have these connections. You can help us, but it's not the right time. We need to focus on what we're doing at hand. And, and so I was kind of like trying to help them too much by offering all of my resources right away. And, Benny was kind of like, wait a minute, we have to focus here. So it makes sense. So I don't doubt that once they conquer Southeast Asia, as we all hope they do, and are rooting for them to do, that they would look into other markets. It's just a natural next step.
When you and Benny were talking about non-fungible tokens like way early on in 2018, was that your first experience with crypto commodities and the token the tokenizing of different, I guess, things? Like, is that your first experience with crypto in general?
No, my first experience with crypto was back in 2013, and I made fun of Bitcoin on Twitter. As you do when you first learn about it and you don't understand it. And I wish I could go back to my time and slap myself. So that's how time travel doesn't exist in my lifetime, because that's what I would do with it. But basically, I then got back into it in 2017 during the big 2017 bull market. I got in at around like October, and then October, November, December were like the craziest 3 months of my life, and I was hooked. Even though after December it all came tumbling down, I was hooked. And then I think shortly after that, Benny reached out to me.
What made you change your mind from your first interaction with Bitcoin being more negative? How did you gain a more positive outlook on cryptocurrency as a whole?
I mean, I just got it right away. It was actually, I'm actually shocked that I didn't get it in 2013. I think I was probably too young. I was probably too immature at the time, but I just got it right away because I've been working and living and playing in video games my whole life, and video games all have cryptocurrency. It's just centralized. They all have a currency that's in their game that runs their whole ecosystem. Like the easiest way to explain it is World of Warcraft has gold, copper, silver, platinum, whatever, right? All these MMOs that I've played throughout my life have all had these ecosystems. So reading about blockchain, reading about crypto, reading about NFTs, smart contracts, and everything else, it was just a no-brainer. At least for me, it was very much like a light bulb clicked, and I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. And so then I made it my mission to jump ship on traditional gaming and move over to blockchain gaming.
Now, I don't know if you have any non-disclosure agreements or anything, but are there any other blockchain-specific companies that you've been working with in the gaming space?
Yeah, I don't think there's an NDA. I can say what I do. I work in San Diego, and I work for a company called Protagonist Games, and it's a work-for-hire company. And I kind of convinced them to make me a crypto czar for the company, and then we started to get opportunities to make blockchain games. So I'm still working and developing on blockchain games. I can't say who it's for, and I can't say what I'm doing, but I'm still in the space making games, and at the same time advising RFOX.
How long do you think it's going to take for AAA games to take a more crypto-centric and blockchain-centric focus in their in-game economies?
Oof. I used to say not that long, but I think it's going to be a lot longer because the gaming community, and this is shocking to me, how much the gaming community is anti-NFT and anti-crypto. And I think it's all stemmed from like some bogus article from back in the day saying the oceans are boiling and crypto's going to boil the planet, and we're going to, I think they really latched on to the eco side of NFTs, and they kind of are all echo chambering it, at least from what I've seen, into the Twitter sphere about how they don't make sense and they're pointless, and you can just right click save the image, and it's all very just like, you can tell that they don't understand what it is. So it's going to take a lot of educating, and I know it's really hard. I struggle with this a lot, and I know everybody in this call can kind of struggle with it too, like going, why don't they understand? I really don't understand how they don't get it. And so there's just a lot of educating that needs to take place. And then once that happens, you're still going to need an indie developer to make it big. I think Axie Infinity is in the Farmville stage of Facebook when free-to-play kind of first started and Farmville was the biggest game. I think Axie Infinity is kind of in that sphere, but you're still going to need another game that's bigger than that to kind of come out and then really catch the eye of these AAA producers and publishers, because they're going to keep doing what they're doing until the gaming community or until their players vote with their wallet and go somewhere else.
If you think Axie Infinity is in the early stages and it's the Farmville equivalent, what do you think the equivalent traditional video game or gaming company is RFOX right now?
I think RFOX is one of those indie companies that needs to kind of show how they can be leaders in the space. I think there's a lot of people trying to figure out what to do, and making games is not easy. They definitely hired the right people, and they are doing the right things with cogs, because games need to be simple right now because it's such a different space. It's not like traditional gaming, and there's so many hurdles in making a wallet and connecting it and getting the NFTs and playing the game, that the game has to be simple in the beginning. So I think there's a lot of technical advances that need to happen too. There's a lot of game ideas that I have for blockchain games, but the tech isn't there yet. So you can't put everything on chain. Right now, all you can really put on chain is the marketplace, unless it's turn-based, and then you can put turn-based gameplay on chain. But even that is kind of hard because of transactions and stuff. But I think where it's all headed is eventually this space and the blockchains that it uses are so fast that it doesn't matter what's on chain. And when everything's on chain, you'll be able to take advantage of a lot of things, mainly being anti-hack. And then also online tournaments will be huge now that people can play from their house without worrying about people cheating.
And how many years down the line do you see those advancements becoming technically possible?
Don't know. I mean, it all depends on the blockchains, right? I think we've already seen some pretty big advancements from 2017 to 2021 in some of these blockchains. So another 4 years would be my guess. My gut guess would be like another, maybe 2025 is when the big change happens for gaming and everybody gets it and everybody switches over. So as funny as that sounds, because you guys are all really early and you guys have been in this space for a while, a ton of people out there have no clue what we do or what it is we even care about. So, just go to the store, go to your local store and look around and ask yourself, how many of these people actually know what's going on or what I do when I go home? Probably none of them. So there's just a lot to be educated right now.
Yeah, and I think, it was an interesting point that I've heard Benny repeat a number of times. So I don't know whether this is misattributed to you, Arclegger, but, that he said, how many times do you play a game, for hours and hours, hundreds of thousands of hours, and then, you start a new game and you start from scratch. I think the real penny drop moment will be when you have that interoperability. And I think, COGS has set themselves up to be that. But it doesn't have to necessarily be COGS. It could be something else. But, that idea of these are the COGS that I earned playing COG Slam. But now I can go over to this game over here or that game over there. And I actually get to keep the COG that I earned from those first 100,000 hours. And I can actually use it in this other game that I'm spending 100,000 hours on. And I think that to me seemed like the penny drop moment of like,
you're 100%. You're 100% correct. And that's the biggest hurdle that people have struggled with, because people tend to want to poke holes in what the new tech is because they can't see it because it hasn't happened yet. So it's hard for them to kind of envision being able to take all your stuff to another game because they go, but wait, why would that other game let you do this? Why would they, and they don't think more than one step ahead. But what you're talking about takes and requires many steps to happen. So you're already at the end, which is great because that's what Benny says all the time. Start with the end in mind. And you should. And that's the end. The end is taking all your stuff, moving from game to game, having all of this clout, having all of this gamer credibility, showing your inventories off, just showing your worth as a gamer. But to get to that point, it takes a lot of steps to get there. And, it's going to take all of us really to kind of champion it. We're all leaders in this space right now, just by playing play to earn games, just like how people who were, I remember when free to play started. Free to play came out in like 2010, 2009-ish, I think. And everyone hated it. Everyone's like, this is so stupid. They're just trying to scam you and they're just trying to take your money. And now everything's free to play. It's like if a game isn't free to play, I'm kind of like weary about it. I'm like, wait a minute, shouldn't this, like, why isn't this game free? So it just takes time.
Do you think there's going to be a dominant chain where most game blockchain applications are going to take place? And if so, which one do you think it's going to be, at least as of right now with everything that you're seeing in the space?
There's the juicy question. I do think there's going to be a dominant game chain, a dominant blockchain for gaming. I really do think it's, and I don't think it's out yet. Like, you need more than just speed, and you need it to be catered to games in general. It can't just be a really fast blockchain that also is used for gaming. It has to be designed from the ground up to work with gaming. So I don't think it's out yet. I really don't. That doesn't mean there aren't blockchains out there currently that could run great games. But I think that one of these big guys, because people learn from the technology mistakes all through the years. Think of anything, like the internet, how fast it grows and how companies come and go. This is the same thing. There's no difference. So, if I'm thinking in the future, there's probably going to be some mistakes with F2. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some mistakes with them going to proof of stake and they have to fix that. And like, I'm sure there's going to be some other hacks that come out with DeFi and they have to fix that. And then, so there's going to be this learning curve of mistakes being made and fixing them and new blockchains coming out. And then one of these big guys like Activision or EA, or, you guys don't understand how smart these people are that work there. Like, some of these engineers are big brain, 5-head, massive, huge noggin, smart people. And so they're just going to have them learn about blockchain over the next 3-4 years. And one of these big guys will probably make one for gaming. Maybe it'll be Valve. Maybe it'll be Epic Games. Someone will do it. And then that'll be the chain that everybody uses.
Do you see the major companies collaborating together, kind of like how, at least in the United States, we saw JP Morgan, Discover, US Bank, Bank of America, all kind of collaborate to make Zelle? Do you think we'll see a blockchain equivalent in the crypto space from, say, big video game?
They're going to kind of have to be, I think. I think that's how interoperability and the metaverse works. I think anybody that tries to take their own sandbox and not let anybody play in it is just going to hurt themselves. And you're going to see people do that. There's going to be a few people right in the beginning try to make their own sandbox and say, no, you're not allowed to come in. This is my sandbox. I mean, hell, they actually said, I was going to say Facebook might do it, but they said from the beginning it was all about interoperability. But we'll see what they actually do. But people who kind of make it so people can't be a part of their little space, like, they're just hurting themselves. So they're going to learn the hard way, and eventually there's going to be a big cooperative gaming guild or gaming corporation, and everyone's going to be a big part of it. So I think there's also going to be multiple metaverses too, but it's weird. It's going to take a long time before everyone's not going to just sing Kumbaya and play nice with each other. That's not how business works. Business is very, very cutthroat. And while they have the best intentions in mind, ultimately they're trying to take over the space. So that's why I say we'll see what Facebook actually does with their metaverse. But the people that are going to win in the long term are going to be the open source like metaverse DAO type situations that are just freely letting everybody in my opinion.
Did you see it was a few weeks or like a month and a half ago or so, I saw that Valve had banned non-fungible tokens
Yep.
systems within their games on Steam. Did I read that correctly?
I think that's a couple things. Now remember, what I'm about to say is just my opinion. I don't know any information. But what I think is happening is they've been in the secondary marketplace world for a long time. They were one of the first ones to actually let you sell your skins in games. And so they've had to deal with legal ramifications of that for a very long time. And so I think they're covering their ass by just playing nice and saying, we're just not going to deal with it right now, and don't sue us because we don't even care about it right now. So I think it's going to be that. But I also think it's sneaky. I also think they're just doing it on their own on the side, waiting for the right time, and then they're just going to release their own NFT marketplace. So I think they're playing both sides here.
Do you see them if the NFT economy once it becomes more mature and more fully realized and has more of a mass market understanding, do you think if there's more well-defined guidelines of how gamified NFTs can work and how they can get transferred, do you think Valve may walk back that ban?
Oh, 100%. They have to, or Epic Games is going to eat their lunch. Epic Games just did a Visa like what happened to Microsoft or MasterCard. MasterCard CEO was like, I hate crypto, or said something like that. And then Visa was like, we love it and we're accepting USDC. It's like, that's the same thing that happened to Steam. Epic Games' number one competitor is Valve and the Steam platform. So as soon as Valve said, we're not doing NFTs, sorry, we're not going to let games on Steam that have NFTs or crypto. Well, what's Epic do? The first thing that they do is they say, well, we are. And so that's kind of like them saying like, hello, like if you keep taking this action, we're just going to eat your lunch and steal all your gamers. It may not happen tomorrow, but in the next 10 years, we're going to take everybody. And Valve knows that. They're smart. They're not dumb. They see what's happening. They're just making sure that their company survives right now and doesn't get caught up in all the drama, because they probably don't want to deal with it legally because they've been in this space for so long. They know what's about to happen because they've had secondary markets for years, a decade or more.
I put a tweet out and I just let people know that you were in here. So if they had any questions that they were wanting to ask you, they could just DM them to me or drop a comment under that tweet.
Sure.
And so this one is Cogfather or is from Cogfather. He's a pretty dominant member within the specifically Cog space, which is something that you obviously are advising on. And we were talking about dominant blockchains. And what are your thoughts on Wax as both a blockchain in general, and if it has the potential to become a dominant blockchain within at least the gaming space?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Couple things first. I feel bad. I don't want to dominate your guys' roundtable, so I hope that I'm not. And second, I do recognize a lot of these people because I've been on Twitter for so long. So I do recognize, Cogfather and Red Foxer and Derek and Mr. Flair and some of these other guys in here. I definitely see you. You guys have all been great for the community, that's for sure. Everybody in here, obviously, but I do recognize some of the names. But to answer the question, Wax, that's up to them. Honestly, it's up to the co-founders. It's up to the people in charge. They're in such a good spot right now to capitalize on everything that's happening. But ultimately, it comes down to their core executive team and their core beliefs and what they want to do. So if they have a really big head start, and it's up to them to take it and run with it. Other than that, that's all I can really say about the matter. I'm a fan of it. Obviously, we launched Cogs on it, and Wax was around before Wax. They were OP skins, and I remember interacting with OP skins, and so they have a huge head start. But they're going to have to really work hard because eventually they're going to get hit with the big guns, and that's when the real craziness starts.
What native requirements need to be built into a blockchain to make it better for gaming, do you think?
Well, one of the big problems that we're running in right now in blockchain gaming is the multiplayer sync is really hard. Multiplayer in itself is hard because of latency issues and ping. Basically, like data being transferred back and forth from your client to the server, from that server to the other person's client, so they can see two people move on the screen at the same time. And just that in itself is hard to do. So having that happen on a blockchain level is even harder. So that's one big piece, is whatever blockchain becomes a dominant game in blockchain is going to have to focus a lot of their time and energy on multiplayer and people moving at the same time. The best way I can explain it is we're back in the Atari days when it comes to gaming. As soon as we use blockchain, we're back at basic, simple step one. Like, how do we make sure this happens? How do we make sure this works? Okay, how do we make sure this works? Because we're not allowed to use our own centralized stuff. So it's going to take a little bit of time for it to speed. It's not going to take as long, right? Took whatever 5 decades to get to where we are now from Atari, but we are back in the Atari days in terms of gaming and what you can do with blockchain. So we're going to have to speed that up a little bit, but we'll get there. It's not going to take decades.
So Cogfather actually has another question. So does Wax as a platform offer the world the opportunity to basically be a number one blockchain? Do you think technologically right now it has what it takes to, at least technologically, power these games? Or do you think it needs some more enhancements? And if so, what enhancements?
Well, you have to think about it more than just playing a game and getting play to earn and NFTs. Like, any blockchain can do that. So Bitcoin can do that right now, I think. You just make sure that the on-chain stuff happens outside of the game, outside of gameplay. You're still in the video game, but outside of the actual gameplay, you just make sure that the transactions and transferring and everything happens in a slow-paced environment. What I'm talking about is actually having gameplay on chain at a Twitch speed of like playing Call of Duty. And so no blockchains at that level yet. That doesn't exist yet. But until we have that level of speed and efficiency that can be verified through consensus mechanisms and use blockchain to make sure people aren't cheating, then that's kind of where we need to get to. And so in order to get to that level, you need to start with the basics. And the basics are making sure you can just make real-time multiplayer games. As you notice, a lot of the blockchain games out there are all turn-based. And they're turn-based for a reason, because it's really, really hard to get two things moving on the screen at the same time in a blockchain game. So Axie Infinity, Splinterlands, all these card games, they're turn-based.
Are you familiar with Theta, out of curiosity?
Theta, the crypto?
Yeah. Theta and what they're doing in the blockchain space for gaming.
I have a friend who's really big into Theta. He's actually a producer, coworker of mine. He talks about it all the time. So I have heard about it, but I'm not like a pro on Theta.
Okay, I just want to preface this with I'm not a Theta shill. I just want to talk to you about some of the technological possibilities with Theta as a blockchain, because it seems like they're taking, at least from my perspective, a larger approach, kind of like how RFOX Labs is with all of their different ecosystems and ventures. They've created basically a Twitch and an NFT platform, and also a rendering, like cloud computing type of type of mechanic where people can actually sell their processing power and earn a token for it. Basically, they're basically tokenizing their power to either render video. But people are talking about that they could use that to render cloud computing games, kind of like how Google Stadia is doing, but in a more decentralized manner. Do you think blockchain verified and decentralized rendering servers and rendering projects are going to play a big part in making it easier for people to play more graphically demanding games while on lower end hardware?
Yeah, that whole movement is pretty awesome when you think about it. I know Stadia kind of failed, and I remember playing it at E3 when it first started being shown. And I was like, the latency issue is really bad. Like I was playing Batman, I was playing like Arkham Asylum or something. And I was like, I hit the stick left and the Batman doesn't move left for like a half a second later. And they're like, oh yeah, well, we're working on that. It's going to be smooth. And I was like, well, no, it has to be smooth. There is no, if you want people to switch over to cloud computing, it has to be as good or better than people who are playing on their, 140 FPS, 140 Hertz, 60 FPS locked monitors. So there can't be any latency issues at all. And so again, back to the multiplayer issue, if they can figure that problem out, if Theta can figure out how to get people to borrow processing power and graphical power and pump it to my PC, even though it's just a potato, and I'm able to play high-end games without any latency issues, then that's like printing solid gold, right? The problem is that's a really, really, really hard problem to fix. And when I say really hard, I mean like it is like think about how many competitive games there are in traditional gaming. Just the two big ones, Counter-Strike and Valorant. If they could figure out a way to get faster latency, they would have done it by now. And so the fastest way to get the best latency is to do a local LAN networked tournament. And that's part of the problem is you can't do these big tournaments unless you're live in person at a LAN with the lowest latency speeds. So in order for us to get past that leap, I think decentralization is a must. We have to figure out how to decentralize it all. We have to figure out how to make the tech better, speed up the latency issues, decentralize it to make sure people aren't cheating. And then you can have tournaments and big esport events from your house, and you don't have to be there in person. So I do think we'll get there eventually. If Theta figures it out first, that's great. More power to them. But I do think that it's a big hurdle to jump.
So I have a question from Dougie VR. How do you think the crypto gaming space will change when legacy gaming companies enter the crypto space? Will we see less ICOs and governance tokens for games, or do you think the legacy gaming companies are going to adopt a more crypto friendly approach?
Well, in the business, there's usually two things that happen. You either make it yourself or you buy somebody else's. And so I think that's what's going to happen with these big guys is the really big guys, they're just going to all make their own version. So whatever's out there, they're going to steal it. They're just going to copy it and make their own ones. The ones that are not as big, that are kind of trying to make it big, they are more likely to adopt real world examples of what's already happening in the crypto space and partner with them, or they'll buy them out and just use them. So I think you're going to see both of those things starting to happen. And when both those things start to happen, that's when we're getting ready for it to go mainstream. When they start announcing either they're making their own or they're buying or partnering with somebody else.
Hey, Art, two-part question.
Yeah.
And I'll start with the hard question first. So me and some of the OGs in chat have been discussing the use case for single cogs that aren't tubed up. And we're thinking how cool it'd be to give these gold slammers and various ones that probably won't get tubed up or very low chance. What gives them even more value? Having some type of DeFi aspect tied to these, and Yeah, we were exploring that option. So I'd like your thought process on that. And what are your favorite cogs from first edition? And the first 25 is an acceptable answer. All right.
Well, for your first question, I don't want to overstep the GM too much because Fadsley is running the show there. And so any ideas that you guys have, you can tell me and I can try to relay it to them, but definitely relay it to Fadsley as well. Because he's like me. He comes from traditional gaming. He's shipped a ton of things. He knows what's up. So if you have a good idea, he'll listen. And, in terms of making single-use cogs more valuable, I think there's plenty of ways to do that in the game. You can have special modes where you are only doing play for keeps and they're just the single cogs of duplicates that you have, or, there's tons of things that you can do. Off the top of my head, probably won't think of the best idea, but the way that cogs are created and used as collectibles, they're perfect, right? They're fun to collect. It's easy to play the game. They're either round and they look like a chip, and they're just easily. They're just something about them, they're very compelling. And I think because of that reason, you'll find many, many use cases, even for the single cogs, especially with interoperability. I would always love to use them as poker chips. Like, how cool would it be to play with a bunch of cogs as poker chips? And the value of your bet or raise is the value of the cogs that you put into the middle of the pot at the time, right? So that would be kind of cool. But just, there's tons of things you can do. Secondly, for your second question, my favorite cog is arcade because I grew up basically in an arcade. This was a different time back then, but in the 80s, your parents would just drop you off at the arcade and then they would just go do whatever they wanted to for their day. And they'd be like, I'm picking you back up in 4 hours, or I'm picking you back up in 6 hours. Meet me at this spot at this time. And that's just what you did. So I got dropped off at the arcade a lot, and I would go there on my own too. And so I just kind of grew up in the arcade and around games. So arcade is definitely my favorite cog. Second favorite cog is Arclegger because it has my dog Leo on it. That's my French bulldog. And then probably my third favorite is Benny's from second edition, the one with him with the magnifying glass. I think those are my top three for sure.
That Benny is the on first edition. And
is that first edition?
Yep, I have the first. That's part of the first 25 actually. He's mint number. He was the 13th off the press. So
okay, yeah. I couldn't remember. The first and second edition blended together because we were working so hard. There was such a short staff back then, not like what they have now. But yeah, those are definitely my favorites.
How do you think audiences are going to receive Cog Slam?
I just sent Benny this message actually. I said, Benny, I'm listening to this community roundtable and they're really excited about cogs. This is awesome to hear. I think that cogs is about to make a big splash, which is so funny because we started it as this very simple, and I put simple in quotes, this very simple small project. And it's the fact that it is a simple game to learn is going to help onboard a ton of people. And like, I can't stress that enough. When you have a game and you're trying to onboard people to play your game, if it's complicated to learn how to play, you've already have a big hurdle. You already have this huge hurdle in front of you to try to get a ton of, I'm talking about a ton of users, like millions of users. When you're dealing with the millions of people, millions of users space, your game has to be pretty simple to learn. And cogs is that. Cogs is so easy to play and learn and pick up, and it's fun to collect. And because it's so simple, I really do think it's going to do really well. If our play to earn game that was coming out was like some epic fantasy adventure with an inventory and you craft and you like do all these crazy things, like, yeah, you'd get some players, but you'd have to get actual gamers, and you'd have to get gamers that have to leap the hurdle of getting into crypto and making a wallet and all that. But what RFOX is doing with Cog Slam and it being just a very simple game and easy to play, and you can play it for a few times and put the phone down and pick your phone back up and play a couple more games, like those are all good things going for it.
So, in the early 2010s, when the free to play model really gained prominence, it was primarily mobile centric, at least at launch, and now we see more console and traditional computer based systems kind of adopting that model within the last 5 to 6 years or so. That's when it really came to prominence. Do you see play to earn mechanic games kind of being mobile centric at first, and then seeing later adoption from more traditional gaming platforms?
I think it'll be both because of programs like BlueStacks. If you don't know what BlueStacks is, it basically just lets you play Android games on your PC. So I think people will launch their game on Android and kill two birds with one stone, because they'll be able to be like, download the game on Android on your mobile phone, or download BlueStacks and play it on your PC. And that's just really easy to do. But mobile is definitely the clear winner when it comes to play to earn games. And then eventually you'll get those big PC titles, like a big MMO or a big shooter that has a play to earn quality.
If there was a single game that you could have from the traditional or legacy gaming space go play to earn, what would you want it to be?
If there was, say that again?
So if there was a game from the traditional gaming space, or from the legacy gaming space, as the crypto heads are calling it, what game would you want to go play to earn?
Oh God, that's such a hard question. I think the most fun game to go play to earn would be like a World of Warcraft 2, or a World of Warcraft remake. Some big epic MMO, I think, would be the most fun. But for me personally, I would love to see a Diablo type of game become a play to earn game, just because the loot is just so good. And if you could like kill a monster and drop epic loot, and it's like some awesome, unique or rare that like hasn't been found yet, and then you can mint it and just sell it immediately. I don't know. There's something about that. I know Diablo had the real money auction house and it failed, but it was the worst implementation of an auction house I've ever seen. Like, just imagine if it was just like infinite creation, no scarcity, no regard for the market, no regard for tanking your coin or anything like that. Like, they just put it out there and it just hyper inflated immediately. So I think someone figuring out a better version of real money auction house from Diablo and making a Diablo play to earn game with actual scarcity in mind would be just so awesome.
Just out of curiosity, what is your favorite genre of video game?
That's a good question. I think my favorite genre is fighting games, just because I grew up in an arcade and I grew up during the era when everybody was in the arcade playing fighting games, and it was just like a really fun thing to watch and be a part of. Other than that, it was probably RPGs, anything RPG, an MMO, JRPG, action RPG. Those to me are always the most fun.
Do you think fighting games would make a pretty good transition to play to earn?
I mean, anything can be play to earn, but how well it does as a blockchain game, I'm not sure, just because of the latency with multiplayer problems right now. And
how do you? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if like, I know I was harping on latency with shooters, but latency is even a bigger issue with fighting games.
What type of play to earn mechanics do you foresee really enhancing the fighting game?
What kind of play to earn mechanic do I see enhancing the fighting game?
Or like or play to earn mechanics making fighting games better, rather than just taking a traditional fighting game and like slapping a play to earn mechanic on it?
I think some type of a career, like I think that's the biggest part. There's a big piece missing in fighting games in general, where you just pick a fighter and you fight somebody and then that's it. and I always thought that was funny, because there's so much more. There's so much more of a game there, possibly. So I think if you figured out how to make it so it was your fighter, and you had a career mode, and you went through different tournaments, and then you finally went to like bigger tournaments with other people, and like, basically RPGing it and making it your own character, I think would be a huge step just for fighting games in general, and that would be a great play to earn mechanic to wait and to do that. But yeah, that would probably be my best.
So most people, when looking back at the history of modern video games, they kind of look back at Super Mario Bros. From the Nintendo Entertainment System as kind of being that watershed breakthrough moment for when the mass market really started to understand video games. What do you think the watershed moment is going to look like for play to earn games reaching that mass market?
So here, take this with a grain of salt, because my job by definition is to basically call trends out and figure out what's going to happen next, and then we make a game for whatever that trend's going to be. I think there's a chance, obviously, this doesn't happen, but I think this is what's going to happen. What I'm seeing right now is what happened in the Atari days, where there's just a lot of stuff being made, and there's just a lot of crap out there. I mean, it already happened with crypto and all the coins and all the shit coins and everything. And I think the same thing's going to start happening with play to earn. You're just going to see just the shittiest, crappiest stuff get put out there, and there's just going to be too much of it. And we're going to get to a point where it just pops, like the Atari bubble popped. And then after that, then you're going to get the Nintendo, right? Nintendo didn't come out with Mario until after the fiasco of Atari. And if you don't know your video game history, I recommend researching what happened with Atari and how many games there were coming out. And there's just too much. And so I think I'm starting to see the same type of trends with play to earn. It's the new buzzword. And I think everybody's going to make a play to earn something. And there's just not going to be enough to go around. And the market's going to be a bubble and pop. And then after we settle, you'll get like the real play to earn games.
So this next question is actually coming from Cogfather. Do you think Cog Slam has the capability of becoming that mainstream play to earn breakout game?
I do. I definitely do, because of what I said earlier about it being so easy to play, so easy to just download on your phone and just pick up and start playing. They really are designing it to scale. And so, a game like, I don't mean to pick on them. I mean, they're doing so well, so it's kind of weird to pick on them. But Axie Infinity, it's really hard to pick up and play that game. You got to buy 3 Axies. They're expensive. There's just a lot of hurdles there. And so it's going to be hard for them to get 1 million new users or 2 million or 10 million. Whereas with Cogs, you just put the game in front of 10 million gamers, and it's going to be really easy to grab a couple million users to just play it. Just play it, download it, and play it. And then from there, it'll funnel down to 200,000 who actually play it again. And then it'll funnel down to 20,000 who play it all the time. So it's your funnel in gaming. Your funnel starts really wide, and you try to get as many people as possible. And then it kind of trickles out the bottom of the people who are going to play it for really like years and play it for a long time. But I do think Cog Slam will be that, actually, and for Southeast Asia, because of the play to earn quality of it, and because it's so easy, and because it's fun to collect cogs. Like, it's just fun to try to collect them and trade them. So there's a lot of things going for Cog Slam. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm super biased, obviously. I'm about as biased as you could be, being one of the creators of it. But if I objectively look at it from my gaming background, it's easy to learn, it's easy to play, the games are quick, which is great for mobile, and it's fun to collect. So those are all really big benchmarks.
How long does each game of Cog Slam normally take?
Not that long, a couple minutes. I mean, you don't want to sit there and play for 10 minutes on a phone. Mm-hmm. So many things can happen.
Would you say it's have you played Clash Royale?
I love that game.
Okay, awesome. So do I, dude. Let's go. Okay. Would you say it's an equivalent amount of time to, say, a single match in Clash Royale?
I would say Clash Royale takes longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Clash Royale takes
Oh,
longer.
dude, that's perfect then, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's yeah. You want to have you. Obviously, again, like I'm super biased, but you definitely want to have your games be kind of short. There's some secret sauce here when it comes to game design, and I learned this from Mark Rosewater, who has been the lead designer of Magic the Gathering for the last like 25 years or something crazy. He's been my biggest mentor. So if you guys want to know good game design, listen to Mark Rosewater. He says that you want your game to end before the user wants it to end. Think of Monopoly. Nobody wants to sit there and play Monopoly because there's a time where you're like, okay, this game, like just get it over with, like flip the board over, or here's like buy all my properties, you won. And that's a big downfall of Monopoly because it takes too long to play a game. If the game ends before the user wants it to end, then they go, that was interesting. Okay, let's play another match. But if the game takes too long and then you play one game and you go, I'm done. I don't want to play another game. Let's go do something else. That was fun though, but maybe we'll play it again. That's the worst. That's the absolute worst you could ever have. You want the game to end before the user does, so they want to play again. And so any game out there that you have played a lot of, think about how long it takes to play that game. Think about all the times that you've died or that the game ended and you were kind of like, oh man, that was fun, but it ended too fast. I want to play again. Like that's how arcade games work. That's how pinball games work. That's how the best board games work. And so that's some kind of secret game design magic there. And so mobile games that have quick play times just have that in spades.
So when you were and you still are advising with the Cogs team, but in the initial versions that you played of Cogs Slam, how much has the actual gameplay advanced and become simplified and faster over time as the game was getting developed?
Well, the game that I helped Benny and those guys create, that was all on chain, that was turn-based, that game was totally different. This game has been engineered from the ground up by Fadsley and his team to be more appealing to the mass markets, which is great. So everything that they've done to kind of revamp it has been totally on point with what you need to do to kind of attract a mass market. What we did initially with Cogs to try to make it on-chain was we were trying to prove a point that you can actually make on-chain games because everybody said you couldn't do it. And so we did it. And so, that was fun and everything. But then we kind of had to get serious and launch the games division and really like actually create the real game. And so that's when we hired Fadsley as GM, and he's just taken his team and run with it.
So, does Cog Slam take place on chain?
I don't think so. I'm not the best person to ask for that in terms of the technicals. I don't know what's on chain and what's not. So I can't answer.
So I really don't know if you can say this or not, but do you know of any other publicly announced Cogs enabled games that will be releasing in that ecosystem, or can you not? Is that a no?
In the ecosystem of Cogs?
And Red Fox in general?
I don't know, honestly. I've been kind of advising them on the Vault, and so I don't really. They've been so focused on Cog Slam that I don't know what they've been up to in terms of other games in the ecosystem. But I'm sure I'll find out.
So have you? So with you advising in the Vault, have you brought up bringing in more gamified mechanics to the metaverse in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to help them. What I'm trying to do when I advise them is I'm trying to help them with the basics first, right? You don't want to overwhelm them because when you have a virtual world, anything's possible, right? We've all seen Ready Player One, and Ready Player One's like the most fantastical version of a metaverse with like the best VR ever. And it has everything. But that's not feasible. Like you can't just make that world where it just literally has everything, unless you have like massive quantum computing and AI and machine learning and develop like robot developers that make code, and like we're not there yet. But when you do have your own virtual world, you got to pick and choose what you want to do, because all of it takes a lot of time and effort, and you want to do it well. And so if you come at them with like, hey, you should do this and this and this and this and this, they just get overwhelmed. And so what you really need in the beginning is you need the virtual world to work. You need to be able to walk through it without a bunch of latency issues and lag and problems, and you need it to look good. And then once you have the foundation, it's a lot easier to add a bunch of systems and things to your virtual world. But your virtual world ultimately from the very beginning has to look good, and it has to run good. And so that was kind of what I advised them in the beginning.
So we saw a gameplay from I believe Alpha. I think it was Alpha or something like that, or like a pre-alpha release. And just as a viewer, it seems like it still suffered from some of the other VR problems where it seemed a little choppy. In later releases, can you comment on if it's going to feel really smooth to walk around in there, both in non-VR interaction and virtual reality interaction with headsets?
So that all depends on the hardware you use. So I'm sure that they want everybody to be able to run at 60 FPS perfectly, but that comes with the cost of graphical power and processing power and what you're using to go into the virtual world and everything else. So that's why it's really easy to make games for console, because everybody is using the same console. If we're making a game for PlayStation 5, we already know what everybody has. We know what their specs are. We know what their graphical input is. We know that if the game runs at 60 FPS on our hardware, then it's going to run for 60 FPS for everybody, because everybody has the same PlayStation 5. But that is not the case for PC games. People run on the crappiest rigs that you could ever possibly imagine. If you're listening to this and you think that you have a potato rig, you have seen nothing. Like, people run on like just the crappiest stuff, and then they complain about how it doesn't run smooth. So you have to set a benchmark. And so whatever they set their benchmarks at, they're going to make it to run smooth on those benchmarks. And then I would hope, obviously, that they list what the benchmarks are, and then everybody can kind of upgrade their PC or their VR headset or whatever they're going to use to hit those benchmarks.
Have you personally seen a version of the RFOX Vault in 60 FPS, 120 or 144 frames per second?
I have not. I haven't been in the vault like how Benny and Clifford, is that his name? Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Yeah, Leonard.
I think it's Lenny. Yeah.
Yeah, how Benny and Lenny. That's why it confused me, because they're both NYs. How they've been in the vault running around, I haven't experienced that yet.
So is your first interaction with an actual play of the RFOX Vault, is that also going to be in the MVP release in Q4 or early Q1 of 2022?
It all depends on when they're ready to show it. Honestly, I mean, I'm assuming at some point Benny will reach out to me and be like, "Hey, run around in this. Tell me what you think." But as somebody said before, I forget who it was, it's really hard to make these things. They take time. You can't just like shove it out there. And as long as they update the community and there's good roadmaps, it shouldn't be an issue, because people can follow along with the development. Obviously they're working on it. They want to get it right, and they're selling shops and they're going full steam ahead. So there's no reason to think that they won't do it. They know what they want to do. They just got to do it.
What do you think the first version of Meta's metaverse is going to look like for mass market? Is that like, do you think like what experiences do you think they're going to have for people?
I don't know. I'm sure they'll screw it up somehow. I'm sure they'll AOL it, and like, who knows what they're gonna do. Like, honestly, here's what I know. Unless they're using actual game developers to like help them it's going to come off corny and cheesy. Like, the worst thing that they could do is use a bunch of marketing people to make the metaverse. Marketing and developers have their specific roles and they're good at what they do, but they're not good at doing each other's jobs. A game developer is not going to be as good at marketing their game as a marketing person, and a marketing person is not going to be as good as a game developer. And so what you see happen sometimes is you see a room full of marketers come up with all the ideas and then force the game developers to make it. And if that's what happens, then Meta's first version is going to be really corny and very cheesy. And it's going to drip of marketing. So I hope that's not what happens, but you never know. I don't know anything about what they're doing. I wish them the best, because them honestly announcing Meta has helped RFOX and has helped all of us. So I don't wish any ill will towards them, but I really, really hope that they don't screw it up.
Do you see the mass market adopting a more centralized metaverse like Meta's unnamed platform, or do you see them resonating more and wanting to adopt the decentralized metaverse, something like an RFOX or even a Decentraland?
So I'm just thinking, when I first went into Decentraland, I got it immediately. I was like, oh, sweet. This is like Second Life, but on the blockchain. This is amazing. This is going to be huge. And I bought a bunch of mana. I think I even tweeted it too. I was like, I'm buying a ton of mana. This is when it was at like 9 cents. I was like, this is basically just Second Life on the blockchain. There's no way that this isn't big eventually. So I still feel that way. Mana's at like $5 now or $4 something. And I think they're going to have their own ecosystem and their own community, and they're going to have a ton of users, and they'll be like Second Life on the blockchain. But not everybody wants to play Second Life or be Second Life. You know, I really like how the Vault is very specific. Like, you go here to shop and hang out with your friends, just like you do when you went to the mall in the physical world. But like, you went there for a reason. When I go into Decentraland, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what's happening? Where do I go? Okay, I'm running around. Okay, like, it's just too big, in my opinion. So, in terms of your question, I think it depends on people's taste. If it's a more centralized universe like Meta's, depending on what they offer, could be good. But who knows? It's like, a real world example would be like taking somebody and dropping them in the middle of Los Angeles and saying, okay, look at my virtual world. Isn't it amazing? And you're just like overwhelmed, and you're like, holy shit. Like, there's so many buildings and there's cars, and I don't, like, what do I do? They're like, oh, well, you just walk around, go do whatever you want. You're in a city. Well, that's overwhelming for people. People need guidance. People need objectives. They need goals. Now take that same person and drop them in the middle of Disneyland. Like, that's way more like they can, there's a map, they can see where all the lands are. It's not super big, it's not overwhelming, like being dropped in the middle of a big city. So I think the multiverses and the virtual worlds that will succeed will be the ones that are trying to build a specific thing versus like a Decentraland, which is just trying to build everything.
Do you think there's any other shortcomings to Decentraland's model that you are trying to advise Red Fox with so they don't make those same mistakes in the Vault?
I mean, it's still early, so it's hard to like nitpick on what Decentraland's doing. So I think just from high level, it's the same answer as I had before, which is like, it's just too much. Like, it's just too big, in my opinion. So I like the fact that the Vault is just 100 shops, and you go there specifically to go shopping and hang out and do fun things with your friends. So that's just way more appealing to me.
How do you feel about the Arclegger Gaming Quarter announcement?
Oh, I love it. I love the name, obviously, and I think it's great. I'm really excited. I don't know how. I know for you guys it's different because I was kind of like in with Benny for a while now, but I'm genuinely excited about the next land sale. I think it's going to be awesome. And all of us are going to be not going to be able to sleep that night, whenever it happens, however it happens on our time zone. I think it's great. I want a shop. I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, dude, we should just buy a shop. If we could pull enough money together, we could make a shop and then we could make an arcade. I was just like going off about all the awesome things I would do with my own shop in the gaming quarter. But I think these ones are going to sell a little bit out of my price range.
Do you think a lot of what RFOX and the team at RFOX Labs have been envisioning for the vaults, do you think the shop owners are going to exceed those expectations?
I forget who had the shop earlier. Somebody was in here and they had the number one shop and he was saying that they were working with them. I think that's a big key. Like working with who buys the shops will determine how successful they are.
Do you think that approach is going to serve the adoption of RFOX Vault better than something like a Decentraland, where they kind of make the foundation and it's kind of up to third-party developers to kind of bake in those features that they want to see on their plot of land?
Yeah, it's more hyper focused. So the vault is coming out of nowhere. Like, people did not see the vault coming. We saw it coming years ahead because we've been tuned into RFOX, but the general crypto public does not know what the vault is, and it's just they're hearing about it for the first time, and it's coming out of left field. And then it's going to surpass Decentraland because they're going to be done before Decentraland's done, like quotes, air quotes, done. And all 100 shops are going to be up and running, and it's going to be a full-fledged ecosystem before Decentraland and Sand and all these other ones I think are even ready to go. So not only is it coming out of left field, it's coming fast, and it's going to be done before the other ones. So I don't know. I just, obviously we're all RFOX shills in here, but I couldn't be more, when it comes to virtual worlds, I couldn't be more excited and bullish about what they're doing with the vault. Just because it is smaller and it's more focused.
Why was the decision made to take a more e-commerce perspective as opposed to a gamification perspective when designing the RFOX Vault?
I don't know. You got to ask Benny. Honestly, he's a big brain, and he has all his data, and he has all the people telling him the right moves to make, and he really does listen to the people that he trusts. So if he has somebody that he trusts really, really well, and he's looking at the data himself, and it says you need to go e-commerce, then he'll go e-commerce. So I don't question. I learned a long time ago not to question Benny because he's usually always right.
So how did you and Benny meet?
We met on Twitter. I was tweeting a lot about gaming and NFTs in like 2017, and he noticed that I was like one of the only game developers that was openly like shouting from the rooftops like, this is the future. And so he DM'd me, and I found him through YouTube, but he DM'd me and was like, hey, can we talk? And we talked for a little while, and then we both like were on the same page when it comes to gaming and NFTs. And then he kind of asked me, do you want to be a part of my team for RFOX Labs? We can create a gaming division together. And I was like, whoa, that's big. I don't know if I can handle that. Because at the time I was just a game designer. I wasn't a CEO or an executive or anything like that. And now this guy wants me to create a gaming division, which is a big responsibility. And so I was like, well, just so you know, I'm just a game developer. And he's like, no, it's okay. We'll help you. And they really did. I kind of just trusted and jumped in because it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. And I got laid off from my job, which sucked. And so I was like, you know what? This just seems like a happy coincidence. I'm just going to do this. And they helped me the whole way. They had me read business books, and they were helping me with like mentoring me with what to do. And I was helping them with the games and what to do on the gaming side. And it just worked out. But, it's kind of odd to think about how coincidental it all was.
What really resonated with you about making games built on the blockchain in a decentralized fashion?
What resonated? I honestly think that the thing that really resonated with me was the ownership of the digital items. Like I'm so big on NFTs. Like I'm like Gary Vaynerchuk Jr. on NFTs. I like they're just if they're not the future, then everybody can point at me and laugh and go, ha ha ha, I told you so. I knew that was a scam the whole time. That's fine. But I really, really think that NFTs are just the future, and digital ownership is going to be as powerful, if not more powerful, than physical ownership. A deed to a house is just a piece of paper. Tells you that you own this house. Don't understand why that can't also be a digital thing. So I think that's what resonates with me the most with gaming is all the cool things that you can do with items as NFTs and crossing them between games and giving them to, like, let's say you have like a gun and you give it to an esport pro and they use your gun in the tournament and they get a bunch of kills and then they sign your gun and then give it back to you. And you have this like one of one gun that was actually used in a game by the pro. Just the possibilities are endless.
Do you worry when traditional gaming companies tend to adopt play to earn mechanics? Are you worried that they're going to take a traditional game model and slap play to earn models on top of that? Or do you think they're really going to sit down and take a methodical approach to working in these play to earn mechanics into a way that really enhances the gameplay and the progression loop that people can really start to have with play to earn mechanics?
It depends on how big their butts are getting kicked. If what I've usually seen in these big companies in the exec circles is they think they know everything and they're just going to sit down and like try to do it themselves, and it'll probably be clumsy and flimsy. But if they're getting their butts kicked by the time that happens by these other games, then they'll go into deep analyzation mode where they put, like, these gaming companies have a team of biz dev people and business intelligence. They call them BI people. It stands for business intelligence. And those people literally spend all day analyzing data of other businesses and their business and how they can like optimize everything. And so these guys, and they're all super smart. These super smart business intelligence people are going to analyze these other game companies that are doing play to earn the right way, and they're going to advise the execs on what to do. So in the end, it depends on the indie game developers and the other play to earn game developers that are doing well in the space. That's going to lead to the big guys to kind of pay attention.
Do you think we'll ever see a Nintendo build a play to earn game, or do you think they're going to stay relatively conservative and traditional in terms of their gameplay mechanics and what people expect from a Nintendo video game?
That's a very interesting question because it all depends on the company. I think that I was listening to another what is this called? A space? Yeah, I was listening to another space where somebody said something really, really awesome. And they said that, people still buy horses and ride horses and have like a big stable and they race them and they enjoy having a horse and they enjoy riding a horse. And they like that more than cars. But you know what? The rest of the world moved on from horses. And so I think game companies are going to have to look at themselves and think about that. Are they going to just stay in the traditional gaming space and have a small group of people that love traditional games and just want to play those, and it'll just be like this niche market? Like, will Nintendo stay in that world? Or will Nintendo make a move and go, wait a minute, everybody's going play to earn, everybody's going blockchain. We should probably change our company and move in this direction. So it's up to every single company is going to have that talk. Every single company is going to have that meeting where they go, well, what do we do? And the ones that, the earlier that, in my opinion, the earlier that they jump over, the better it is for their company. But I do think that there's going to be traditional gaming in a small niche market 10 years from now, because people are just going to be so anti NFT and blockchain and crypto that they're just going to, just like people who are anti cars, they're just going to be like, nope, I'm riding a horse forever.
So we were talking earlier about that kind of watershed moment that's really going to lead to mass adoption with play to earn models, and we talked about the example of Super Mario kind of rising out of the ashes of the night. I think it was the 1982 to 1983 video game crash. What do you foresee the crypto play to earn crash looking like?
I think it's just going to be too many bad games. It's just going to be game exhaustion. The gaming industry is kind of a lot like the entertainment industry, and there will be these lulls where like no good games come out or no good movies or TV shows come out, and everybody's just kind of watching old stuff and replaying old games, and that can go on for a little while, but eventually like a good game or a good movie or a good TV show has to come out to keep everything going. And in the traditional gaming world and in the traditional entertainment market, there's no lack of stuff. Well, people are kind of getting exhausted with all the sequels and prequels in the entertainment world. But in the gaming world, there's no lack of new ideas and new things coming up. But in the play to earn space, if we don't innovate quickly enough on the blockchain side, then you're just going to get too many of the same game on play to earn. And it's just going to be play to earn overload. And I think people are just going to get exhausted and bored. And the worst thing that could happen is they all go back to traditional gaming. Because then it's like we got to wait for somebody to make the Nintendo Super. Like I said, they got to wait for somebody to make the Nintendo Super Mario Brothers before they all come back. So I just hope that's how I could see it playing out. Is there's just the blockchain tech doesn't advance quickly enough, and we just get a ton of the same thing in play to earn, just slapped a different color, and everybody just kind of is over it, and then we just have to wait for the real game to come out.
Do you foresee a landmark lawsuit over NFT applications facing scrutiny on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, akin to how third-party payment solutions with Epic Games was a pretty big lawsuit that set major precedents this year?
I'm sure it will. I think everything's going to have to get, blockchain is so disruptive just as a technology. Everything's going to get shaken up and everything's going to have to get rewritten. Just look at what's happening with finance. Just look at what's happening with copyright. All these taxes, all these tax laws, all these outdated copyright laws, they're all going to have to get rewritten and shaken up. Like blockchain is doing that to every industry, not just gaming, not just art world, like not just the financial world. Every industry is going to get shooken up, and they're going to have to rewrite the rules for decentralization, governance, and all these other new things that are coming out of blockchain.
Do you see Cogs Slam and other Cogs-enabled games having trouble getting listed on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store just because of their nature, just with the play-to-earn model?
I know that there are some problems there. I don't know what the rule is yet for getting on App Store or the Apple App Store. Like I know you can't circumvent or you can't sell directly in your game. I don't know what it is. There's some loophole, but until they rewrite the laws, they're going to have to. Like, again, you're taking centralized systems and old ways of making tons of money, and you're punching it directly in the face and saying, no, we want this. And there's going to be a lot of pushback. There's going to be a lot of like, wait a minute, you're not going to come into my house and tell me what to do. And that's kind of Apple's stance. That's Valve's stance with Steam. It's going to be a lot of centralized people that are making money hand over fist in a centralized way are not going to just freely accept a decentralized system. They're going to have to be told to do it. And the best way to be told to do it is with the public who's using their products with their wallets. So that's the best way to make change. And that's why the people who are actually on the ground floor, all the developers, all the blockchain devs right now that are doing tons of work, paving the way for the future, are the real heroes right now in this space.
How much of your vision for the RFOX Vault has been realized with the development?
Not very much. I mean, RFOX Vault isn't part of the gaming division. It's its own division, and they have their own GM and their own execs and their own team. And so I haven't been like in the day in and outs of the vault. You know, I'll advise if Benny or Wade or somebody has a question on the gaming side, but I don't deal with the vault specifically.
What other venture from RFOX Labs are you pretty excited about?
Finance. Oh my God. I think RFOX Finance is the greatest thing ever. I think it was so smart because Pancake, well, I just have a problem with bad names in general. Like over the years, I've learned that names do matter. And when you have things like sushi swap and pancake swap and syrup pools and like, it's just also corny to me. And it's like you're trying to be taken seriously. And the new generation gets it, right? Like the Zoomers and the younger millennials think it's hilarious. But like most adults think it's just like, what? Like what, pancakes? What are you having me do? This is so weird. So I just think that there's a huge piece of the pie to take there just from the finance side to like be serious about decentralized finance and to like offer tons of rewards and to just take it seriously. Whereas some of these other ones I think are just really, I mean, they work and they offer a great service. I just think they're all kind of corny.
What other applications do you want to see built into RFOX Finance?
I would love a lot more inclusion of other coins, especially other coins that are going to help the vault. So I think, you know, they're running a whole ecosystem, but I imagine eventually they're going to run pools where you stake VFOX or RFOX to get a different coin. Or the opposite, you stake like a different coin to get RFOX and VFOX. I think more pools would be awesome. I think more farms would be awesome, obviously. More discoverability of coins, like in charts, like you see on like Uniswap, where you can kind of like look at a ton of different charts and pairs, and you know, there's a lot to be done there. I think being able to supply collateral and then borrow from it would be awesome. But you know, I'm sure that they're all thinking about all these things. These are not like new ideas.
Have you had a discussion with anyone at RFOX about a further use case for VFOX, or do they foresee that token strictly being tied to the vault?
I know as much as you guys know in terms of VFOX and what they're going to do with it, but I know Benny, and I know Benny's a man of opportunity. So if he finds a better use case or some other way to make VFOX better, I'm sure he'll do it. What he's done so far is just amazing. I really can't say it enough. He has his vision for having this all come together has just been fascinating to watch. I got to see it from the beginning. I got to see it when there was just RFOX Labs and there was nothing. And I've seen him grow with his team, grow it into this massive company with all these ventures. So his vision, I don't ever question his vision. Like I said before, I learned a long time ago to not to trust Benny and to not go against him, because he's usually always right.
Do you prefer holding RFOX over VFOX, or are you pretty neutral when it comes to the value proposition?
I actually like VFOX a little bit more, because right now it seems like VFOX is a better faucet for more RFOX, if that makes sense. Like it feels like if let's say you lost all your RFOX tomorrow, but you still have all your VFOX, it's easier to get your RFOX back because of your VFOX than the other way around. Where if you lost all your VFOX tomorrow and you still had your RFOX, it feels like it would be harder to get your VFOX back. So in that case, I think VFOX is stronger. But if the vault is just kind of normal and let's say it's just like a vault and it doesn't like become the best thing since sliced bread, then maybe RFOX is better. So it's all depends on what happens with the vault, honestly. But right now, today, I can say that I like our VFOX a little bit better just because it is it's a better vehicle into getting more RFOX. Which is funny to say because does that mean I like RFOX better because I want more RFOX because of my VFOX? I don't know. It's kind
That's
of
a fun
conundrum.
paradox.
It's funny to kind of talk about. Here's this. I love the fact that I have both. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Very, very good diplomatic answer. Because last week we had a discussion of RFOX versus VFOX and it was basically 50-50. Like people and it really divided the room. So people are very galvanized about it. Like and this is the case with most other cryptocurrencies. Like once people latch onto a cryptocurrency, it really turns into like, this is it. This is the only one that is valuable to me. So it's cool hearing your perspective on where you seek value.
Yeah, no, and I won't like. I'm no BS. Like I have no reason to lie to you guys. I'm not trying to like lie to make RFOX look cool or anything like that. Like I've already done what I think that I'm super proud of with COGS and first and second edition, and so I'll tell you guys exactly how I feel. You know, I'm not NDA'd with RFOX to not say anything or to, only say good things. But honestly, what I say is what I truly believe. I really am excited about our
So you said that you've been around in this space at least early on since about 2013. With your first exposure with Bitcoin, have there been any projects that you've been burned on, that you thought could become a pretty dominant player and just kind of flatlined?
What? Say that again.
Oh, are there any projects that you've kind of been burned on? Or
I'm
that,
sorry, I totally didn't hear you say that. I caught the end of it. So say it again.
Have there been any crypto projects that you've been burned on that you thought were going to become pretty dominant players but ended up kind of flatlining?
Not really. I've been pretty good at doing my own research, and I'm pretty conservative with what I jump into. So I kind of let the market come to me. I'm not there trying to like mint every new NFT or like jump on every ICO. I kind of just let other people do that, and I kind of watch to see what happens. And then if I start to hear somebody talk about something from different places, so like if I hear something on Twitter and then I hear my friends say it on Discord and then I'm out in the world and I like randomly hear a friend talk about it, then I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on with this? And then I'll go check it out. So I haven't really been like ultra burned, like I put in a ton of money and got rugged or anything like that. Thankfully, knock on wood. But I think it's because I'm a little more patient and I kind of like wait for it to kind of mature a little bit before I jump in.
What are your thoughts on the public's perception of cryptocurrency in most cases primarily being just Bitcoin and then Dogecoin / Shiba Inu?
Well, Doge and Shiba, I think, are hilarious because it's a great way to onboard people into the space. I think that they're not. I think they're fun to buy and own and use as currency if you can use it. But I don't see them as like ultimate money makers unless you got in super early. And I think it's already too late for Doge and Shiba. That's not to say you can't make money on Doge and Shiba, but I think these illusions of grandeur of like, I'm just going to buy $100 in Shiba and become a millionaire, like that's not happening.
Do you foresee the non-fungible token space, how they've been doing those mints and people kind of mint it instantly and then they flip it for like double that price a day or two after? Do you see that model becoming the dominant NFT minting model over the next few years, or do you think this model of minting NFTs and people hyping it up and then dumping it, do you think that's going to go away with the next NFT crash for crypto?
Well, I mean, obviously, you can't just. We're past the stage of just making a bunch of BS and throwing it out there and just expecting it to pump. You know, people can't just do that anymore. You have to really offer something really compelling. And even then, I think the only projects that are going to make it are the ones that come out, fall flat, do nothing, but then don't give up and continue to build and build and build. And then all of a sudden they come out of nowhere. But really, people who have been paying attention saw them the entire time. So I think we're at that stage now where you have to come out with something really stellar for people to buy in, because everybody, let's be honest, nobody has any more F. All their F is all locked up in the NFTs that they already bought. If they need F, they're going to have to sell an NFT at a lower price that they paid for, unless they have a really good one, like a cat, cool cat, or an ape or something. And they don't want to get rid of it because they own one, and getting rid of it means that they have to get out of that ecosystem. So people don't have F to just freely spend and mint things anymore. And so if they're going to spend the F that they have left or buy more of it to buy your NFT, like, you're going to have some really good, compelling reason to do it. That's why I think we're going to kind of move away from these collectibles and these profile pictures, and we're going to start going into the gaming NFTs, because I'll sell some of my NFTs to get some F, or I'll buy some more F to buy your gaming NFT if it means that I can use this character in the game and then level them up, or like I'll buy cogs because I can use them in a game. I think the gaming NFTs are going to have their turn now. They kind of already started, but there's going to be this massive boom and shift. The art world is going to always be the art world. The art NFTs, I think, are always good if you can find the right artist. But those, in my opinion, are long-term holds anyways.
So, with the traditional gaming industry, at least a few years out, or at least a decade out from mass adoption of play-to-earn models, you having a lot of connections within the traditional gaming industry, at least from your perspective, what has been the general sentiment of play-to-earn adoption?
It's been mixed. A lot of people kind of, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I think mixed at best, because people, you have to understand, there's some of these people have been in this ecosystem like myself their entire career. So they maybe don't want to learn it because they're kind of already like in their groove, or maybe they don't agree with where it's headed, or maybe they just don't get it. They don't want to research it. It's easier for them to just keep making games the way they know how their whole career. So it's kind of mixed right now, I would say. But again, this is the same thing that I saw with free to play. I literally saw the same emails, the same meetings, the same debates. It's like deja vu. Free to play was so, I don't know if there's any old gamers in here like me, but if you can remember when free to play first came out, it was not widely accepted. And people thought it was a huge scam, and people thought all the free to play games were really boring, which they were. And it took a while before free to play kind of turned the corner. And so I think the same thing's going to happen with play to earn.
What was the first free to play game that you had come in contact with?
It's probably Bejeweled, and then I didn't like Farmville. I played it and didn't like it, but then it was all the match 3 games, so like Bejeweled and Candy Crush, Words with Friends, stuff like that. I remember those free to play games being big and playing them a lot. And then the first real, I put in air quotes, real free to play game that I remember playing and loving was League of Legends. League of Legends was when I was like, holy shit, this is what free to play should be like. And that company is like the biggest company ever now in esports, Riot Games.
Do you think that League of Legends put a lot of free to play mechanics on the map for most major companies?
Yes, I do. I think they kind of. There was other. I'm kind of misremembering because I'm just bringing it up now, and I haven't done my research on free to play in a while. And there was probably big games before League of Legends that were free to play that I'm just not remembering. But I do remember League of Legends making a massive splash and really hitting mainstream big and really forcing the hands of a lot of companies that were making games at the time to become free to play. So for sure it had an impact on the market. Like, that's what you don't understand, that you might not understand, is there are probably 100 games being built right now, and they might take another 2 years to finish. But as technology grows and as things come out, they make big decisions, big sweeping changes. Like, should our game be free to play? Should our game be play to earn? Should we be subscription based? And so the questions kind of linger, especially in a time like now when these play to earn games are coming out. So we'll see what happens.
When did the sentiment among developers change from having more negative feelings regarding free to play or free to play mechanics? When did that change into a more positive sentiment? Why?
I think is just my opinion. I think that it's when the game started becoming more interactive. Like, we had a bunch of basic games. Like, I played all these games that were free to play were all games that were just redone and rehashed of games that I played on Nintendo or Super Nintendo or Sega or whatever in the arcade or on PC a long time ago. And so I kind of was like, cool, this game's free. That's great, but I've played this game before, so I kind of don't care. But it took like some new games that were free to play to really blow my mind, where I was like, holy crap, this game is so awesome. I've never played it before, and it was free. Like, this is the best. And I was earning this free currency, and then I was using my free currency that I was earning to buy more things. And, that whole ecosystem kind of clicked for me, at least for me. I think that kind of changed the sentiment that free to play was real and you could be profitable making free to play games.
What do you think is the most important video game of all time?
I mean, I guess the first one, right? The first one that was ever made.
Fair enough. But for what you think the modern gaming industry has really adopted,
I think the most important move was PlayStation going from cartridge to CD. That was a big moment in gaming because games were on cartridges for forever before then, or floppy disks. And then when Sony was like, we're going to make games on a CD and we're going to be able to graphically show and have better audio and kind of really upgrade gaming, I think that was a huge moment in time. There was a lot that happened behind the scenes. The next Super Nintendo was supposed to be, or the Nintendo 64, I think, was supposed to be CD based also, but then they didn't go with it. And then Panasonic was supposed to make a CD cartridge or a CD console, and then Sony did. There was a lot that was going on at the time, but basically PlayStation 1, the first PlayStation, all the games that kind of came out during that era, 1996, 1997, were very, very important for the gaming industry.
So, at least with the Nintendo Switch, there's been a resurgence with cartridge-based storage for video games, and the Nintendo Switch cartridges can technically hold more storage now than DVDs, right? Or with Blu-ray discs now, correct? Is that something?
Yeah, I'm sure the technology is so much better now.
So, do you think? Because I think long term, over the next 20 to 30 years, it's all going to be moved to cloud computing and rendering once those technological barriers have kind of been smashed. Do you see a resurgence, at least for like a 10 to 15 year period, where the Nintendo based now flash cartridges are going to make a resurgence for game storage?
I think that you're right that it's all just going to be cloud-based. I don't think you're going to buy any cartridges. I think eventually it's just everything's going to be downloaded. It'll all be virtual, or it'll all be owned on the cloud. there's no reason to believe that anything's going to be physical anymore in the gaming space besides the actual physical thing that you're holding to play it. That's just the way I see it headed.
What game inspired you to start making games?
Final Fantasy VII. That's the easy question. Final Fantasy VII was so important to me in my life at the time when I'm going to age myself, but I was 12 years old when Final Fantasy VII came out, and I got it for I think I got it for Christmas. It was either my birthday or Christmas, and it changed my life. Like at 12 is such an age where you're so influenced. It's like such an influential age when you're 12, and I really felt like I was Cloud. I really felt like I was the protagonist. Like for the first time, I really felt like I was playing that character, and that character was me, and I was like in the game. And because it was just so real at the time, and I was old enough to know how to play games well, and I just it was amazing. I can't say enough good things about that game.
Have you played the Final Fantasy VII remake?
Oh yeah,
What are your thoughts?
absolutely incredible. Like they nailed it. I think that they paid a great homage to the original game, and the original game was so outdated that their updated combat mechanics and their combat systems were much needed, and I had so much fun playing that game.
What game are you most excited for that's coming out?
Well, the thing that I'm most excited for is for the ladder to come out on Diablo 2 Resurrection, because Diablo 2 Resurrection is also a masterpiece in recreating an old game that is amazing. And their ladder will make it so you can actually play online and your character will actually matter a little bit more. Other than that, I'm probably excited for... here we go. I'm excited for Cog Slam.
Hey, good.
No, I am actually. But there's a ton of games that are coming out next year. I think I might actually finally be able to get a PlayStation 5 next year since they're sold out all the time. And then next year will be my big console splurge where I play a ton of console games.
So are you primarily playing on PS4 now?
PC.
PC, okay.
Yeah, I don't even touch my PS4 anymore. It's kind of weird. I've been like PC gaming. Like, I mean, I'll play the big hits like Last of Us 2. I loved God of War. I'll play like the big games that come out on PlayStation, but I'm just on my PC playing games all the time.
Are there any games that you wish would get remade right now?
Yeah, basically every game from the 90s era, because there's so many good games. The best example is comic books and Marvel. Like, how big is Marvel and Avengers? Those were comic books forever. It's the same. You have the same type of content from the games that came out in the 80s and the 90s. They're like great stories, great characters, but the game and the graphics all suck. So now we have really great graphics and really great PCs. And I think people should look back at some of those older games and remake them because there's so much great content. Just like how there's tons of novels that people made into movies. Those novels have been around forever, and then finally somebody read it and said, this should be a movie. Totally think that there's like hundreds of games out there that are in the same spot.
What game, if from the 90s was remade, do you think would resonate with a pretty large part of the mainstream gaming industry?
Probably Metal Gear Solid. I think if they remade the original Metal Gear Solid, people would love it. Another good one would probably be, I think if they, there's just so many. I could go down the list and name like 10. Like Mario 64 should get remade. They should remake Castlevania Symphony of the Night. They started to remake the Resident Evil games, which is great. Resident Evil 2 remake is amazing. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend it. They remade Tony Hawk Pro Skater recently, which is also really fun. So it's happening. These older games that were amazing for their time are getting remade, but I still think there's a lot more out there, especially on Super Nintendo and Sega. Super Nintendo had a lot of JRPGs that were incredible, and I think would do really well today if they were remade.
Are you pretty excited for Metroid Prime 4?
Yes. Oh my God, Metroid Prime. I still remember playing Metroid Prime on GameCube way back in the day, and then playing Metroid Prime 2. I never played 3, but I remember playing Metroid Prime 1 and 2, and 4. I'm really excited for 4 to come out. I have a Switch. I love my Switch. I wish I had more time to play it, but I used to play it a lot when I was traveling more, but because of COVID, traveling kind of stopped.
If there was one major shift in the traditional gaming industry that you wish you could see, what shift would that be?
Going to NFTs, honestly. I think that's the best thing the gaming industry could do wholeheartedly, is to switch over to NFTs. Start integrating NFTs into their games.
Well, Arclegger, I just wanted to thank you for stopping by and giving us some of your very valuable wisdom. It's pretty awesome to get someone who works in the gaming industry's perspective on where I think a lot of crypto people have resonated to, and it's awesome hearing your insight on what's going on.
Yeah, no, this is great. I'm glad I could come on and answer a bunch of questions. I totally enjoy it. And remember, I'm just a dude. I don't know everything. I don't know anything that's going to happen. All my opinions are just opinions. So take everything I said with a grain of salt. But, just want to make sure people don't start jumping to conclusions or anything.
No, this is not financial advice. It's strictly entertainment. Just people talking.
Yeah,
that was definitely a fascinating discussion there for the last little while. Ark, it's the first time I think we've all got to hear your side of the story and how you came to be part of RFOX as well. So, yeah, cheers for your time.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad you guys liked it. For me, it just sounds like I'm talking a bunch, and it sounds like I'm just really boring. So I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it.
Well, thank you once again. I'm gonna hop off. I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight, or in the morning, or midday, or wherever you're watching from. It means a lot to all of us here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the RFOX Community Roundtable, and I guess I'll see you all next week. Take it easy.